brother. Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm Dennis. Oh, we'll put the camera on me. Hey, what's going on, everybody? All right, so the Ben Joravsky show is going to happen today, okay, people? But if you've been watching or listening to the show in the last week, you know, well, Ben's got a little boo-boo on his face, and he's getting it taken care of today. He's getting his stitches removed. I know. We're all rooting for him. I think everything's good. I just spoke with him on the phone. I think he was getting scheduled at 1 o'clock. So right now, as I am talking to you people live, Ben is getting stitches removed from his face. Oh, I'm going to go on Facebook Live now, tell everybody. So as we wait for Ben, I'll say about 2 o'clock, Ben will be here. In the meantime, what we're going to do is we're going to play a Benny J bonus interview. Yeah, it turns out we do tons of interviews here. So we'll do a Benny J bonus interview with Senator Robert Peters. It's a fantastic interview. His upbringing, learn about how he got the seat, was once Barack Obama's seat. Pretty fantastic story. We're going to play that. Our guests today include legendary Chicago journalist Monroe Anderson and actor, comedian, political know-it-all, Pat Whalen. He's a triple threat, people. Pat Whalen. He's coming in as well. Topics we're going to be discussing. We're going to be talking about the article from John Cass in the Chicago Tribune mentioning that Mayor Rahm should run for president to help everybody from Biden or something like that. And, you know, Ben's going to weigh in on that. We're also going to be talking overtime with the police and Lori Lightfoot. Lori Lightfoot's visit to the Chicago Police Department. And there's something else in there, but stick around, all right? So we're going to be doing the show. It's just a little late. Like I said, Ben's at the doctor. Look at this. Hey, Ben. Look, he's not there. Hey. Oh, my God. So can't do a show without him. You know what I mean? Once again, there. No Ben. So 2 o'clock, I'm assuming, roughly. And we'll jump back on the Facebook live stream. So everybody, feel free to weigh in with a message if you want. Steven, Kyle, Brianna, all of our live chatters, feel free to weigh in. I'll try to answer your questions. But yeah, we're going to get this interview going here. Robert Peters is his name. Very cool story, this Robert Peters. Young fella. And we're going to play this, and when we come back, today's Ben Joravsky show. So, hey, stick in there, everybody. We'll be right back.
Whoa.
This Ben Joravsky Show, Benny J bonus interview is brought to you in part by the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, Local 126 and District 8, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9, the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150, and our good friends at the Chicago Federation of Labor. Benny J, take it away.
All right, Ben Joravsky here. Bonus time on the Ben Joravsky Show. Let's see. Today is Thursday, September 5th, 2019. Lord knows when you're going to be listening. So I hope you're having a good day as you hear this. As we do all the time with our bonus shows, I ask our guest to introduce him or herself. So bonus guest, introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm State Senator Robert Peters of the 13th District. Thanks for having me.
All right, 13th District in the city of Chicago. That's roughly Hyde Park. Folks,
the Gold Coast down to the Indiana border, along the lakefront, and it's got almost, I think, actually all of Hyde Park in it. So that's where I come from. I'm out of Hyde Park, so yeah, long district.
And that had been Kwame Raoul's district?
Yep.
And before Kwame Raoul, what was that guy's name, D, who used to have that district? President Barack Obama.
Yeah.
I know
small
him.
shoes to fill there. Yeah.
No pressure.
No pressure. Yeah.
Robert Peters. All right. You're here. I reached out to you because, to a large degree, because, well, you're a state senator, so I'd love to get your thoughts on politics, local and state. But Bernie Sanders has named you as the chair, am I getting it right, of his campaign in the state of Illinois? Do I have that right?
I am his lead endorsement here in the state of Illinois.
Lead endorsement, okay. Sorry, Bernie, I got it wrong.
Well,
but more or less, I got it right.
Yeah.
And so we'll talk Bernie and why you support Bernie and your thoughts on Bernie and the campaign, et cetera, and so forth, and how you hope you can help Bernie in the state of Illinois. But before we do that, let's introduce you your first time on the show. So tell folks a little bit about yourself. Born in Chicago?
Yeah, born and raised in Hyde Park. I was born deaf with a bad speech impediment. And I was born to a mother who was addicted to drugs and alcohol. This is in 1985, so in the midst of Reagan's war on drugs. And I was adopted by a civil rights lawyer for a father and a social worker for a mom. And I wasn't fully able to hear until I was 6, and I wasn't fully able to speak until I was 12. My mom used to joke during Thanksgiving that when I didn't talk, she knew somebody who said when he does start talking, he's never going to shut up.
Is that true?
I mean, talk to my family.
Okay.
Let them, they'll say it. It depends. I either talk a lot and it doesn't make any sense, and I think that's a special gift in its own way, or I talk a lot and only I care about it. So, yeah.
And so you grew up. So your parents, the people who adopted you, your parents, let's call them what they are.
I call them my parents, yeah.
Yes, because they are your parents. I think the people who do the raising are the parents, but that's just
I was raised by many people, I would say. So
it takes a village to raise a kid.
Yep.
Anyway, so you lived in Hyde Park, and you went to the local Hyde Park school, which would be Ray Elementary.
Elementary, Ray Warriors. Shout out to any Ray Warriors out there. Everyone knows, the
Mighty,
best
Mighty
school
Ray.
in Hyde Park there. I mean, I love Murray, Bret Hart, every one of those schools, but I'm very proud to have gone to Ray School, and then I went to Mount Carmel.
Talk
for
about
high
that.
school.
Mount Carmel, of course, is a football powerhouse on the south side of Chicago, just south of Hyde Park. You could have gone to Kenwood. You could have gone to Whitney Young. You could have gone to Lord knows how many schools. Why did you decide to go to Mount Carmel?
Oh, wow. There's so many things there. So to give you my school background, I was originally at Lab because my mom had been a social worker there, and, you can get your kid in. But being deaf and adopted and black and growing up in a white family, I was a pretty angry kid. So I got in trouble in kindergarten, and I ended up getting kicked out, and I went to Ray. And I was still pretty much a troublemaker through that entire time. And my dad, being an Irish Catholic man, civil rights lawyer, that was sort of different than most people, but still an angry Irish Catholic man, was like, we got to get you some discipline. So he said, you're going to go to Mount Carmel. I hated it. I wanted to go to Kenwood. I ended up, Mount Carmel has been a special experience for me. It comes with its own sense of baggage because of my development as a youth. But so I would hang out with Mount Carmel kids, and I would hang out with Kenwood kids. I mean, I always talk about one of my favorite movies is The Departed. And I always think about Mark Wahlberg's line to Leonardo DiCaprio, which is like, would you drop your R's on the weekend? So Monday through Friday, I was a Mount Carmel kid, and on the weekend, I was a Kenwood kid. And the prom that I most remember is going to Kenwood prom with my friends. And so, that is, I led that life. It took me a while to figure out who I am in the world. And this was a period in which I was definitely not sure what was I in the world.
When you say it took you a while to figure out who you were in the world, I mean, you just by listening to the bare bones of your story, there's a lot to unpack there. Born deaf. Black kid, white parents, heart is with public school array, going to a Catholic school. So, like, what kind of decision did you come to as to who you are?
Yeah, I mean, this is, to get real deep, my dad died from cancer when I was 26, and my mom basically died from alcoholism when I was 28. During that time,
This is the parents who raised you.
Parents who raised me.
So you're an orphan now.
Yeah, I've always been an orphan. I guess you could say I'm an orphan. But I'm not lost in the world. I have many people I see as family. I have 4 amazing sisters. I have amazing friends. I have a large community that I still call on. But there was a period where I was pretty depressed. My dad, when I was a kid, a lot of people said that I wouldn't, graduate from 8th grade or high school, or they questioned my parents for even adopting me. And my dad, being, again, the good Irish Catholic man that he was, made me watch Rudy, the movie Rudy. Quite a bit.
Notre Dame is for our non-sports listeners.
Yeah, that's a Notre Dame thing.
Oh, God.
So every Saturday I watch Rudy.
Oh, my God.
I watch Notre Dame, and my dad would say to me, a lot of people are going to tell you can't do anything in the world. It's not about whether you can or you can't. It's about whether you go out and try and find out.
Yeah.
So he never put it in success or failure. He made the pressure more about me just trying to find out and taking new risks. So, of course, when he passes away, I'm like, what does this mean for me in the world? What's all this about? I read more Camus than a French 17-year-old. And then my mom ended up passing away. George Zimmerman got off for the murder of Trayvon Martin. I had been in politics. I left it to go work at Groupon. I decided, in that moment that I don't want to do that anymore. I finally was like, I want to fight. That I find that we have systemic issues in this world that have told me the wrong thing. My mom died with $300,000 of debt that told my mom the wrong thing. And sort of that's where I realized that all this sort of pressure about who I'm supposed to be in the world. Am I allowed to curse on this?
Yeah, it's a podcast. You can say whatever you want, man.
It was some bullshit. And there were a lot of very powerful people and interests that told me I'm supposed to be a certain way. I'm supposed to look a certain way. I'm supposed to act a certain way. For me to get by in politics, you're supposed to be a certain way. And for me, I'm driven by an anger that has at first told me to blame myself without realizing that there are actually other people and other forces that deserve blame. And that whether it was my biological mom, whether it's my parents, whether it's myself, that the world we need to make is not the ones that have hurt them.
Have you met your biological mom?
No, I mean, I have the birth certificate. But to give you an idea of what the last 30 to 40 years has looked like in this country, the community hospital I was born in is now luxury high-rise. Wow. And
in Chicago.
In Chicago. And the home that she has listed is luxury apartments. And and the records, I'm trying to find them, but I also have this weird feeling. I don't know if I want to, when you're adopted, you think, I'm gonna, and you figure this out. You're like, I'm gonna go find. So there's a thing. I'm getting real deep, And Ben told me to come on the show, and he asked if I was a talker. And I was like, I don't know, little column A, little column B, and here I am, just talking. Maybe I'll have a memoir one day.
Well, it did well for your predecessor, Barack Obama. But go ahead. Yeah.
Small shoes again, guys. Small shoes. When there's a thing in therapy, I've been to a therapist for 7 years, and again, if my therapist is listening, shout out to you, thank you so much. That if you've lost 2 parents and you're adopted, and you've already gotten over the grieving process of having been ripped away from your parents' hands in that adoption process. If you find out that they actually passed away too, it can send another spiral. So the struggle for me is consider the fact that my biological mom was not in the healthiest of life. And, from what I understand from the birth certificate, she was 30, and it's been 34 years that she might not be around anymore. And if she's not, then I have to grieve someone I never got to meet. And that can be devastating. So, but considering that I'm almost always pretty existential about things, about a lot of stuff, and I tend to think very deeply, maybe it's something I revisit and I accept. And I only have so much time to really act. So either I act now or I just, accept it.
Yeah.
So.
And by the way, what college, undergraduate, did you go to Notre Dame? After all,
no, I didn't go to Notre Dame.
Rudy movies?
I was not the best student. I have a really bad ADHD, and for me, when I latch on, the way we do our education system is pretty broken to get into this.
Yeah.
Let me do my best Black Bernie Sanders here. But the way we do our education system is broken, and one way that's broken is if you have ADHD or you have learning disabilities and you're struggling in life and you have high anxiety or you have some level of autism or something like that, you don't fit into the box that education's supposed to have. So for me, I was a very creative person. My imagination can run wild. I constantly spend every night thinking about what the next 30 years look like. I wake up the next day and I'll have a little bit of an anxious shake because I'll think about what the next 30 years look like. And there's a lot of dreaming the impossible to make it possible is something that I feel is important if you're both an organizer or a legislator. So for me, school was not necessarily built for that. It's so result-driven, and it's constantly individualistic in the race against each other, that the education system was not built for someone who, saw things like, I cared about politics since, I think I was 10. I cared about the arts. I cared about expressing myself. I acted out in order to do so. I was then put into the learning disability class, which, back then, I don't know if they do it now, but, the LD, the local dummy class, as it was called. And I was basically told I did not fit the norm. So for me, school did not cater to my strengths. It tried to turn my weaknesses into strengths instead of actually strengthening sort of my strengthening myself educationally or mentally and emotionally. So I get to college, and it's my first year there. I went to Kansas State University. I went to the middle of Kansas.
Yeah, Kansas State.
And let me tell you, a place just sort of like Mount Carmel was, a place at first I was like, what am I doing? And then I was like, this has been so influential for me. I get to Kansas State University, and in my first year, I almost get kicked out. I drank and partied. I was like, I am free. We're going to do this.
Rock and roll.
Let's do it. I convinced my friend. He's now with, he's now a valet driver and a doorman. He's with out to Local 1. I convinced him to come all the way out there with me, and we just flunked ourselves out. So my dad comes to get me. We go meet with the dean. And he, looks at the dean and goes, my son's going to graduate from this school, so you got to keep him here. He's being a little stupid, but just keep him here. So out of all of that, I end up staying at K-State, and surprisingly enough, I'm very open about it. I am 1 credit hour short from having a college degree, which was my dad's last wish. And the best way I would put it is I was always rebellious to what my dad wanted me to do. And he said, you got to get a normal job after college. And I hope, if he's watching, I did not necessarily get a normal job as a state senator, but he did say before he passed away, follow my dreams. And my dream is to, as much as possible, impact and change the world around me. And I hope I can do that here. So,
all right, we're going to pause it right there. How's it going, everybody? Dennis here. Today's Ben Joravsky show, a little delayed. If you've been following the program at all in the last week, Ben has a little thing on his face, and he's getting it taken care of today. He's getting his stitches removed. Look at this. No Ben Joravsky, all right? It's just me here. Can't do a Ben Joravsky show without Ben Joravsky. You know what I mean? So he's on his way. What you're hearing now is our Benny J bonus interview with Senator Robert Peters, an incredible story of his upbringing and how he got the Senate seat. So, like I said, we're going to be giving you a live Ben Joravsky show. It's coming up, all right? We got to wait for Benny J. Okay, so he's at the doctor. I'd say about 2 o'clock is when we're looking to start this, okay? So make sure you join. Oh, wait, I got to put it right here. It's just Ben. Oh, no Ben. Dennis right here. Okay. So we got Monroe Anderson coming in, legendary Chicago journalist. You know he's going to be talking Trump, more Trump and Trump. And also joining us, comedian, actor, comedy actor, a political know-it-all, pundit, if you will. The one, the only Pat Whalen is making his return to the program. It's going to be a good show. We're also going to be talking tons of local politics like we always do. We're going to be talking Mayor Lightfoot and her recent discussion with Chicago Police Department on overtime pay. Also, we're going to be talking about Mayor Rahm. John Cass's latest article in the Chicago Tribune. Oh, that's just got Ben Joravsky riffs written all over it. If you don't know, John Cass said that Mayor Rahm should run for president to save Democrats from Joe Biden. Very interesting. So Ben's going to be weighing in on that as well. It's going to be a fantastic show. So stick around, everybody, and keep enjoying this interview with Robert Peters. Plenty of other Ben Joravsky bonus interviews where this came from, by the way, if you're listening live. Chicago.suntimes.com/pages/Joravsky. Go there and you can check out our bonus interviews. We had one with attorney Clinton Krisloff, the one you're hearing, Robert Peters. We had a Defending Lori Lightfoot special with Lori Glenn and Juanita Rosari. Probably butchered that last name. But go check that out. Chicago.suntimes.com/pages/Joravsky. ChicagoReader.com. Just look for the Ben Joravsky Show and wherever else you download your favorite podcasts. All right, let's see here. Steven says, dang, who is that interview with? Hey, Steven, it's Robert Peters, and we're going to continue it. Don't go anywhere. A live Ben Joravsky Show will be coming up at about 2 o'clock. All right, Robert Peters, Ben Joravsky, take it away.
So what's the road from being one credit short of a degree, which, by the way, one credit?
It's very annoying.
I mean, one credit?
I know. I'm like, I want to be like, yo, guys, the system's a little weird when here I am. You know, like it's going to be like the situation when on the Wikipedia page, you'll be like, attended.
Yeah, attended, right. Attended. Wait, so it's Kansas is the Jayhawks. Kansas State is the what?
Wildcats.
Oh, I should have known that.
Yeah, the ag school. I and when I talk to farmers and they think I'm just some sort of, I'm a Black Hyde Parker. What do I know? I'm like, let me tell you something. Every morning I smelled manure at like 8 o'clock and it woke me up. It was as strong as the coffee. So I understand some bit about your work. So yeah.
All right, so you come back to Chicago and you go to work for Groupon.
No, I first, so I couldn't find a job. It was the Great Recession. And so I get out and I'm just sleeping on my dad's couch. And he's like, you got to go do something.
Yeah.
He was like, go, this is my favorite thing that he said to me, go to Radio Shack. And if anybody is out here, I don't think Radio Shack exists anymore. So I think that was a good decision not to go to Radio Shack. And
go to Radio Shack.
Yes. So my lifelong alderman was running for county board president. So I was Tony Preckwinkle.
Okay.
And so in 2009, 2010, I worked for her. And then I worked from campaign to campaign. At the same time, I went to organizing. If anybody's been an organizer, they've been to the sort of organizing training. But I did the organizing training, and then I went to go work at another organization. I get fired from that organization because I was extremely arrogant. I had a lot of vanity, political vanity.
What does that mean?
Political vanity. Yeah. I thought I was the next greatest thing of all time. I deserved to be in office. For many folks who look like me, we all see ourselves as sort of the next of someone who's held this seat, the next sort of Obama. And really arrogant, and so then I lose my job, and then a week later I lose my dad to cancer.
Wow.
So part of the reason why I had that spiral of finding out who I am and not trying to be something for somebody else was the fact that I lost this job. It was a jolt. I lose my dad. I'm unemployed, and I'm like, what does this mean in the world? So I did some political stuff here and there and didn't really like it and wasn't really moving. I felt like I was doing it so I could just get by. And so I decided to go work at Groupon, where I started becoming more comfortable with who I am. And the key part that I think is so important is I hung out with mostly regular people, people who did not care about what was going on in politics. They were too busy in their lives or in the midst of having, like a lot of millennials, escaping the world around them. When you have crushing student debt, you have really no power in your workplace. When a lot of people are telling you you're supposed to be a certain way, I think the way we talk about politics and we do politics, it's not one that's necessarily enticing to that. And so that was like, oh my God, here I am. After college, I was hanging around a different generation of people who live and breathe this, but I was not really with regular people. And here I am in that. But I saw so many people in my workplace who were, sort of annoyed or, I guess, not feeling sort of lost in the world around them and very angry about it. I was there at Groupon when Snarf's, which was a sandwich shop, was having a Fight for 15 campaign, and then they decided to close the shop and fire everybody. Yeah. And everyone was talking about it, being like, I can't believe they did this. So a lot of stuff was happening politically as sort of, quote unquote, a millennial that was sort of like a jolt to the system is going on. And that helped play a role in me being like, okay, I got to go out in the world and sort of do what I believe. And inevitably led me to Reclaim Chicago and the People's Lobby, who were part of my first organizing experience before my dad died. And I get there and I'm pretty mad and pissed about the world around me. Mad about what happened after the recession. Mad at what led to it. Mad about what happened to my biological mother, my adopted mother. The things I was told. And, they essentially said, it's okay. You're allowed to be mad about that, and you're allowed to act out about that. So I organized with them, and I was their political director. And so the minimum wage increase in Suburban Cook, I was the political director who helped organize around that and getting that done. Bail reform, I was part of the Bail Reform Coalition. I helped write the first bill that came out to abolish bail. And then, the first campaign I worked on was getting rid of money in politics. I worked on publicly financed elections because I thought this, now that I'm in this role, let me tell you, I don't think anybody likes to actually raise money. Yeah. It's a very tough thing. So, and then I get out of that. I take a break. I took a leave to go work for Daniel Biss to be his political director. And
at the time, Daniel Biss was a state representative from Evanston, or running
state senator. He was running for
state senator.
No, he was running for governor. So I was there for a while.
I see. You went to work for him for the gubernatorial campaign of 2018.
Yeah, and so I worked for for Daniel and built a really close relationship with him, and we fought really hard, and then. I get out of there, and we lose to Governor Pritzker, who I'll just say here has been an amazing governor, and has what an amazing session. I guess I should say that as a state senator here as well, and I was lucky enough to pass 13 bills this session, and part of that is because we had a governor who listened.
So how did you get from being
I'm just throwing a lot
political director for a candidate who lost? Daniel Biss lost. So just repeat that. He lost in the governor's race, the primary of 2018, finished second, though, for 10 trivia points. Name all 5 candidates in that race.
JB, Chris Kennedy, Biss, Diber. Am I including Tio Hardeman?
Yes, I guess.
Do you want me to include Robert Marshall?
Yes, I forgot it was actually 6. Marshall.
Yeah. That's correct.
Robert Marshall. He, of course, was the man with the plan to divide the state into 3. Considered voting for him for a moment or two.
Okay.
But I ultimately decided not to. I voted for Dan Biss. I must make this confession here. I told you this before we went on the air.
Yeah.
I'm torn with that because now, in retrospect, I realize that J.B. Pritzker is a great governor, or he's got at least out of the box. Everybody teases me. You were one that I'll never say a nice thing about a politician.
This is true.
But since Harold Washington, I'm thinking this through now. I got to really think this through. I can't think of a politician who's done more things that I want than J.B. Pritzker.
Yes.
Okay. And I didn't vote for him. I didn't think it was good for the party. So I was wrong. Okay. I admit I was wrong.
Yeah. JB has been, and if he's listening, get well. And the other part is what an amazing 2019 this has been. What an amazing session we've had. You can just look at the veto breakdown of all previous governors. It's just been, we can go around to other states and we can say, oh, that sucks. You guys need to be like Illinois.
Yeah, well, it helps to be a billionaire, but let's put that to the side.
Yeah.
So how did you get, again, so your BIS loses, you're out of a job. How did you get to be?
Well, no, I made sure that I could come back to being at Reclaim.
Got it.
Yeah. I made sure that I would be able to come back to Reclaim and, help run some people for office. Andre Vasquez is someone who stands out in the 40th Ward.
Alderman of the newly elected alderman of the 40th Ward.
And so, I came back, and then Kwame's seat ends up opening up, and I built relationships. I think the work that I did organizing and the work that I've done both challenging and working with the party, I have a close relationship with Tony Preckwinkle. I'm not going to deny that. Is one that led me to have that space to be able to get appointed to the seat. Now, I get appointed to the seat, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, my God, do I deserve this thing? I mean, this is a real question that should be asked. When you get appointed, do you deserve to be there? And I thought, well, I have to earn it. And so I spent most of my time being like, I'm going to do whatever I can to earn it. And then I now spend most of my time saying, I got to go bigger. I got to go harder. And my next session, I need to figure out something that's a bolder risk. But yeah, I've been in here since January, and my hope is that I'm able to stay in the seat, and I'll do whatever I can, but I won't stop being the organizer I am.
Now we'll get to Bernie, but I just want to follow something up here. I know we're here to talk Bernie, but Tony Preckwinkle, interesting politician in the city of Chicago. I've been following Tony's career since the 80s. I've had my ups and downs with Tony, but there's one thing when it comes to cultivating young political talent. Tony Preckwinkle has cultivated quite a few, and I'm just going to run off the top of my head. I remember, and I knew them all as young men. Will Burns, who owes, he was the alderman of the 4th Ward. Tony moved him from state rep, or when she left, he was her successor. Christian Mitchell, who's now a big shot with Pritzker. Christian's such a big shot these days. And Tony cultivated his career as a state rep. Am I leaving somebody out?
She played a role with Kim Fox.
Fox, absolutely.
Barack Obama early on. Kwame Raoul. I'm not saying she had the direct hand with all folks, but I think that
I would say Kim Fox and Juliana Stratton. I would say you, Will, Christian Mitchell, Kim Fox, and Juliana Stratton are the ones that she really cultivated. Am I right about that?
Yeah, I think that the one thing that we need to have in politics is the idea of a long game of developing people. And I think especially for me, when I was political director, I at Reclaim, we as an organization, and as well as you see with the UWF does this as well, is candidate development and long-term game, long-term infrastructure, long-term organizing. Politics, I go back to that term, political vanity. You should not be in office just for yourself. Your office is part of a larger, I can't believe I'm about to quote Saul Alinsky, and Saul Alinsky is problematic. But Saul Alinsky says, and I'm paraphrasing, is once you've accepted your own death, you become a tactic to your cause. And so, because you know that you're going to die, and then he says, you must believe it is darkest before the dawn of a brand new world. It is very poetic.
Wait, time out. When did Alinsky say that?
He says, I believe in Rules for Radicals.
Do that to me one more time.
Once you've accepted your own death, you become a tactic to your own cause or to the cause that you believe in. This is a much longer quote than that.
Oh man, that's some deep. D, give me the bong, would you? That's a deep quote, man.
That was deep.
You become a tactic to your own. Wow.
You become a tactic to your own cause. So for me, if the cause is one around justice, a cause is that you're clear that the world and the path that we are on isn't working for folks, that we're playing a risky game, then you understand that you are a tactic of this cause. And one part of that tactic is that you can go into office. But the key part about that tactic is if you're going in office, there should be an organizing mechanism. It should be, how do we develop leaders to also run for office one day? How do we develop leaders to be in the quote unquote shadow government? You know, that sort of how government operates isn't simply because there's a politician, but because people who are on staff, people who lobby, people who do all that stuff. How do we develop that, and how much risk can you take? And I think that is something that has to be grounded in everything we do. And I think more and more people, especially in sort of the movement spaces, see that, understand that, and are doing it. And I think it's become easier at the city level. The next step is these broader levels, and we're in a space of great realignment in the world politically. I mean, if you look at Bernie and you look at and Warren as well, a lot of things that are being said are things that nobody thought would be said, and folks like Bernie Sanders, who's been doing this for quite some time. Yeah. I'm 36, so I can tell you, maybe before I was born here.
Well before you were born.
Well before I was born. Thank you. I look like I'm 15. We're not on video, but you'll be shocked that I am 34. And, I think the stuff that I've gone through in life has made me feel even older, and yet it's not showing on my face.
No, he looks, we carded him before he came into the studio.
It did happen. And thank you, Ben, for that joke. I don't feel insecure. Hello, my therapist. We're going to call you up. I'll be talking to you sometime soon.
All right. So you get appointed to fill a vacancy, and the way that happens in the Cook County under the rules, that the Democratic committeemen gather from all the Democratic committeemen who are in the 13th state Senate district, and I believe that Tony Preckwinkle from the 4th ward would probably have the largest number of weighted votes.
The 5th ward. Leslie Hairston.
Leslie Hairston has the most.
Yeah.
So you've got to make nice to Leslie to make sure she's endorsing you. So it's really winning over the acceptance of elected officials. It's a little different than a campaign, where you have to win over the voters.
This is the idea is I got appointed and now I got to earn it. So
did they tell you that when they gave you the appointment?
I mean, I don't think that those words were said. I think it's just my own insecurity.
Okay. Then they go, "Hey, kid, you got this. Now get out there and earn it."
Well, I mean, Tony definitely does say that all the time to earn it. But for me as well, in my own is, I talked, and I don't want to brag so much. And my job as a politician is to make sure to talk about what I've done, especially when it's election season. So I might as well do that, or my staff will kill me. Is I passed 13 bills, and I think that was the most for a freshman. I was very intense about it. I was very focused on it. But the whole time, as I'm feeling like I have to earn it and pass these bills, and that's how I earn it, I did not feel that I was given the thumbs up by the voters to do so. So as I'm doing that to show the voters that I deserve to be in the seat, I still want to be able to next year go back to Springfield and say that my vision and the organizing work that folks are doing is approved by the people.
So give me an example, a couple of the bills that when you say you passed a bill. So what are the ones you're most proud of?
So I'll break it down into some buckets. So I have a sort of systemic view of mass incarceration, like breaking down mass incarceration, breaking down the prison industrial complex, and sort of a reimagining of safety and justice. So, and I can get into a deeper level of that if you want me to, but I'll just say this. So ICE and Donald Trump tried to come into Illinois. There were a bunch of organizers in central Illinois near Dwight who heard about a private detention center that was about to be built there. I think it was about to be 1,000 beds. And these organizers, along with State Rep Kelly Cassidy and organizations at ICER, came together, and I was part of it, to pass a bill that banned private detention centers in Illinois. So no private detention centers. How big was this bill? A state senator in Colorado called me. She has like 2 private detention centers in her district by the GEO group, and she asked me how you did it. An organizer in New Mexico has asked me the same thing. I try to explain to them how that works. It's a little bit more complicated when you already have these detention centers, obviously. They've already built a lot of power. But in Illinois, we expanded on banning any private detaining of people. So that was one. The other one is Daniel Biss and Kelly Cassidy worked on a bill to end what I call pay to stay, or it was some form of indentured servitude. Essentially, if you're in prison, the Department of Corrections had the ability to sue you for your own incarceration, which is just a wild law to have. They didn't use it that often, but my thinking is when you have a law like that on the books, someone can use it in a very, very horrible way. And, especially if we're going to have a possible economic slowdown, you could have the worst type of financial management that preys on the weakest among us. And so, that was my favorite Kelly Cassidy story here is, so I decided to take that bill first on the floor. Everyone's like, you don't want to do a tough bill for your first bill on the floor. And I was like, I'm going to do it. My uncle, I was afraid to swim. I was a district-wide swimmer. I was a statewide swimmer. I swam in Atlanta in a junior national competition. So this is the weird part about the story is when I was afraid of the water, and my uncle, my godfather, when I was 6, threw me into the deep end. You can't really do that anymore, but he just threw me in the deep end.
The state might arrest you.
Yeah, you can't do that anymore. But I was like, I'm going to jump in the deep end with this bill. And I get up there and I'm trying to negotiate this bill. And sort of every Willie Horton-esque statement just comes thrown my way. And I'm like, thinking to myself, I'm like, Jesus Christ, what am I going to say here? And I was like, okay, I'm going to pull the bill. And I text Kelly and I go, you're going to move your bill first. So we come back to the end of session. Her bill's now gone through. I've carried it back to the floor. It's the last bill I have to do, number 13.
What's the number of the bill?
I think it's HB 900.
Got it.
So I'm getting up there. I'm like, I don't know, should I do this bill? Maybe I won't carry it. And Kelly texts me and goes, basically it's like, run the fucking bill, Robert, do it.
That is KC.
Yeah. So I'm
Kelly
like,
Cassidy is my girl.
Yeah, and I'm looking at my friend Rahm Emanuel, who's the state senator on the Northwest side. I'm like, I'm going to do this. And he's like, do you have the votes? I was like, because I was very intense about my roll call. And this one was very close. I was like, I don't know. I'm going to do it. And, I get up there and, some folks on the other side of the aisle just start kind of making fun of me like, we've seen this bill before, Senator Peters, what's going on here? And, I make a joke. I was like, I was but a wee freshman, but I'm here, mature and understand whatever, shit. And then, I run it and I look up and I can see, 33 or 32 votes. I can't remember. And I passed it. And I was like, I started session with this thing where I took this risk. It didn't work out the way I wanted to. And I brought it back and here it is, I got it done. And I was so proud of myself. And then I sat there being like, we have so many more hours till the budget comes. I was like, what a high. And then I was like, all right, we got some more time where I just now.
And so but what did that bill do exactly? You said
it removed
pay to stay.
Ended pay to stay.
So in other words, the prison, they can't charge, they can't sue.
For your own incarceration.
All right. And did you get any Republican support in that bill?
I think this was a partisan bill. Yeah.
Oh, those Republicans with that big heart of theirs.
Yeah.
And Cullerton allowed it to happen, huh?
No, Cullerton has been a good and fair, president. I like working with the Senate president. And I think this session was really an example of like what it means to have the members that we do. Mm-hmm. And so, I was able to work the bill, and I think that at the end of the day, that's the most important thing. Is there's folks who need to be convinced. That's what you're supposed to do as a legislator.
Did any Democrats vote against it?
No, I don't remember having any Democrats vote against it.
All right, that's a big. And so, what did Kelly Cassidy say when it passed the Senate?
I think she was happy. But I think Kelly looks out for me and she gives me positive reinforcement, and then, a little kick in the butt if I need it.
Yeah.
So.
All right, we're going to pause it right there. Today's Ben Joravsky Show will be live. How's it going, everybody? I'm Dennis. Today's Ben Joravsky Show will be live. We're looking at a start of 2 p.m. because, Ben Joravsky, he's not here. Yeah, I know. Ben, where are you? No, he's at the doctor. He just called me, actually. He's on his way. He just jumped in a cab, so wish him luck. Hey, maybe we'll get some good cab rants today. More than likely we will. You know how Ben Joravsky is. Man, I'm the cab. So that'll be good times. What you're hearing right now is a Benny J bonus interview with a young, hardworking, driven kind of foul-mouthed Illinois State Senator Robert Peters. It's a fantastic interview. If you want to hear more Ben Joravsky bonus interviews, turns out we do this every weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, a brand new interview for you to download. Live streamers, we do it download only. I know, bummer, right? But you can get these interviews at both Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Reader websites, chicago.suntimes.com/pages/Joravsky, chicagoreader.com, and wherever else you download your favorite podcasts. Like I said, we're looking at a start of 2 o'clock. Ben just reached out. The stitches have been removed. The stitches on Ben's face have been removed, everybody. Breaking news here on the Ben Joravsky Show. So Ben will be rolling in here shortly. At 2 o'clock, we're looking to start. In today's program, we got some powerhouses, all right? It is Wednesday, and like we always do on Wednesdays, legendary Chicago journalist Monroe Anderson is returning. He's going to talk Trump, maybe some auto talk, but more than likely Trump. And Pat Whalen is coming in. It's his second time on our program. He did a nightly show, a Friday night show, Pat Whalen Show, I believe it's called, something like that. He's an actor, comedian, political know-it-all. Very funny man. Pat Whalen's coming in as well. So, like I said, we're doing a 2 o'clock start. We're going to keep this interview going with Senator Robert Peters. We're about to find out about him and Bernie Sanders. He's a Bernie Sanders delegate, I believe. So, let's continue the interview here. Like I said, we're looking for a 2 o'clock start, and we'll be Facebook live streaming as well. At Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show. We're waiting to get 2,000 likes on the Ben Joravsky Show Facebook page, by the way. So if you know someone, share the show with a friend, have them like the page. If you've already liked it, let's spread the word around. When we hit 2,000 likes on the Ben Joravsky Show Facebook page, we will have ourselves a caption contest, and not just any caption contest. Oh no, it'll be a Lori Lightfoot caption contest. So tell your friends, share around. When we hit 2,000 likes, we'll do the caption contest. All right, let's keep the interview going. Hang tight, everybody. This is a fantastic interview. I'm saying hang tight, but this is a good interview, so just keep listening to this, and we'll do a live Ben Joravsky Show shortly. By the way, no Ben. Oh, my God. Oh, and there's that, can you guys see the milk carton there, by the way? That's a missing milk carton.
Well, that's... Yeah. That little text from Kelly Cassie, get to work.
Yeah.
So those are two bills that you're particularly proud of. Now, when a person, of course, is appointed to a seat like that, there are people who on the outside are disappointed they didn't get the appointment and are going to label you as, sort of like a tool of the man, if you will, for having gotten the appointment. So what do you say to all those people?
I would say that I understand that I was appointed. Can't run away from that. But if anybody wants to see my organizing and the work that I've done before, being a tool is not, I think, the way it would be described. I mean, I've done civil disobedience twice during the Rauner years. I've had to put my body on the line. I've had to make threats to people in power for the things I believe in, and at the same time, I know how to work relationships, and I have a very clear understanding of power. When you come from organizing, it's not about necessarily being on the righteous few, and it's about how do you build enough power to be taken serious in the space, and how do you navigate those spaces to be able to move the things you believe in. And it's not like it's just me; everyone's doing it. So I think the record I have, the background I have, the risks that I'm taking, the endorsement I made for president, I think can clearly show that I'm clear and understand power, but I'm one who loves to take risks and believe that there's a longer-term vision for what we need to change, not just in the south side of Chicago or downtown Chicago or Chicago, but really on a global scale.
All right, let's get to that endorsement of president, because the Bernie people are probably listening and go, when are they going to talk about Bernie?
I'm a politician, so there's some narcissism that plays here, so I apologize.
Plus, I'm interested in the local story, guys. All right, calm down, Bernie Sanders handlers. All right, now, so here's the deal. I voted for Bernie in 2016. I know all about Bernie's message. I like a lot about what Bernie's message is. Have not decided I'm going to support him in this time around, but I really like Bernie Sanders and what he's done.
I'm going to do the best I can to convince you.
To convince me, okay. I do not see anybody, an elected position in the leadership of Illinois, that remotely resembles Bernie Sanders. So why are you supporting Bernie Sanders as opposed to some of the other candidates that more resemble the conventional Illinois politician?
Yeah, so I'm not going to say anything about the conventional Illinois politician, and I think that to start off is that if anything has happened over the last few years, is the diversity of progressive politics in the state. Mm-hmm. I'll just say that, and then. I think we had a lot of sort of conventional thoughts, you and I especially, about what the governor would be like as a governor. And
fair enough.
And we both can say, look how he's been as governor. He's been great.
But he's no Bernie Sanders.
I mean, anybody and everybody who's out there is someone that I'll convince around what Bernie's vision is all about. So for me, the main thing that really drives me is in the sort of part about justice. I think about the life that I've led. I think about the people around me. I think about the life that they've gone through. And I think about the fact that President Bernie Sanders would change the dynamic for so many people who are like them and like myself. And so when it comes to what a Bernie Sanders presidency looks like, it means a completely different approach to how we treat the working class, black folks on the South Side, Latinx folks who are feeling worried about what ICE is going to do or what's going on. It's about a sort of a government that is grounded in justice. And so I was a Bernie delegate in 2016. There was a lot of pressure for me not to go with Bernie. I felt that pressure too. But if we go back to my story when I said a lot of people told me I'm supposed to be a certain way and I have to be a certain way, and you're supposed to act a certain way and you're supposed to do a certain thing. If I get lost in doing that, and I get lost in not being who I am, being who other people want me to be, then what am I doing here? And I think that goes with Bernie Sanders. There's a reason why I am attached to what Bernie's doing, why I'm driven by it, why I see it, why I see the organizer in chief. When it looked like I got to see the safety and justice plan that he has for safety and justice for all, or justice and safety for all, it was, I remember sitting there almost like near tears. We're talking about the fact that we're removing what a first responder means, redefining that to a social worker is mind-blowing. Looking at risk assessment, not just because you need political cover, because that's what risk assessment often is, but because you know it has baked-in biases and you want to make sure you study it, that shouldn't even be radical. That's common sense. Yeah. To me, when it comes to, we're talking about safety in this city, and I have a huge passion around safety. Look, I'm getting real mad. It's going to be real passion. When we talk about safety in this city, we always talk about it over the same failed policies of the last 30, 40 years. The policies that led to my biological mom using drugs, the policies that put me up for adoption, the policies that gave my civil rights lawyer for a dad work that I wish he'd never had to have. Yeah. When I talk to constituents, when I knock on their doors or I meet with them and I say, do you feel safer now than you did 10 years ago? And they say no. I say, why are we going to continue to do the same damn shit over and over again? Yeah. So let's flip it. We now have someone running for president who says, we're going to reimagine what safety and justice for all looks like. We're going to completely reimagine it. And I have a gut feeling that is what we need in Chicago, what we need in that district, so that when we talk about the spaces that people are allowed to be in, that they're open, they're free, they're lively, they're community, they rebuild the bonds of what it means to be together. You're not going through anything in isolation. Mm-hmm. I mean, any policy that we can talk about in terms of Senator Sanders and what he's proposing, we can look at them in isolation, or we can realize that is also about safety.
All right.
That's
a very a powerful delivery you just made there. And while you're talking, I'm thinking about the racial gap that exists in Democratic politics, particularly in regards to Bernie Sanders, because what you're saying I happen to believe everything you just said, that the last 30 years of the war on drugs was utterly insane and just a waste of people's lives and billions of dollars and destroyed neighborhoods. And we kept it going for all these years, and we're still keeping it going to a certain degree. And yes, you're right. Bernie Sanders did take a stand at a very early age. politically speaking, in his political career against it. So I give him a lot of credit for that. And yet in 2016, when Bernie Sanders ran for president as a Democrat, almost all the black vote went with Hillary Clinton. And I had so many conversations with black people in the city of Chicago that went along like this. And I'm doing my best to paraphrase it accurately. If Bernie Sanders cared so much about black people, why'd he move to Vermont? Because there's no black people in Vermont. I've heard this, how many times I've heard this, I cannot tell you, Robert, how many times I've heard people tell me this. It's just a big disconnect between Bernie Sanders, who is brand new in the minds and the eyes of many black voters. They never heard of the guy before, and the black voters themselves. So talk about that, address that. How can Bernie break down these barriers and get black voters to pay attention to him?
Yeah, so I want to say that we can't look at 2016. I think that oftentimes we want to relitigate 2016. I think that the era between the end of World War II and 2016 is its own era. The New Deal / neoliberal coalition, the Cold War coalition, the Cold War consensus, whatever you want to call it. The moment that Donald Trump, who was never supposed to be president, according to a lot of people, became president, was the breakdown of that consensus. It was a reality that the political world has sort of changed. That was the evolution point, and that we are in a different type of crisis. And I think all of us feel that sense of crisis at almost any given hour, whether it's a tweet, whether it's a policy that comes out from the White House. We are in a constant state of crisis. So I don't want to necessarily relitigate 2016. What I will say is, when you look at polling, he's the most favorable candidate. That's across the board. He has an extremely diverse base. It's younger. So it's people who are roughly my age, who are, we're black, and many of us support Senator Sanders. When it comes to the gender dynamics, more women or folks who identify as women are supporting him. So I think there's been an evolution and some change there. I think the interesting part is it's not just on him. Part of the reason why I'm doing this is because I have a vision and I have a belief about how the world should be, that I need to, move voters to also, to convince them that this is the right vision, or they have it and they need to tell me, and I got to knock on those doors to find that out. And I got to carry that vision. And one part that for me to carry that vision is also to make sure that I'm helping Bernie in terms of getting people to be bought in. The other part about this is that I'm helping move people who otherwise might have supported him, who don't, on why it's not 2016. If we keep relitigating the same shit that happened before, we get stuck in time while the Republican Party, especially in D.C., keeps chopping away at everything we've done before. So while we're focusing on that, I'm sure every government agency is getting a new thing that has been turned over, and we only get a small bit of it as it's been destroyed and crippled. So I don't want to focus on that. I want to focus on the vision. Bernie has a different base now than he did in 2016. I think he needs to expand on that. That's something I am more than willing to work on. And one way that he's doing that is that he's clearly identifying the issues of race and economic justice and gender justice together. And he's done that also with the staff. When I talk to folks on staff, we're talking to mostly women of color that I'm having these conversations with. It's, Ben, I'm going to just say it's not, generally just some old white dudes. It's,
hey, wait a minute.
I'm sorry. It's women of color who, come from organizing spaces who are pushing this over and over again. So I think the other
it's
thing,
so funny you got all the women of color to endorse the old white dude. Well, whatever. You whippersnapper. Let me tell you what I was doing.
Hey, I'm on your program. I'm endorsing it right here. So I think we've seen it. And so, but I think that that's a very valid, sort of feeling that people had. It's in the facts, but.
So you think it's a 2016 feeling that when I was paraphrasing what people told me in 2000. In other words, you think that Bernie, the last 4 years, Bernie has become more familiar to black voters.
Yes.
And his message has resonated a little more and has had time for people to embrace it and think about it.
Yes.
And so they are more open to voting for Bernie this time around.
Yes, and I think that the idea of the work over these next few months is to make sure that more and more folks, as of figuring out who should they go with, the choice is kind of, to me, clear. It's the person who, again, wants to reimagine what safety looks like in our communities. It's the person who is saying, if you're going through a healthcare crisis, you shouldn't have to worry about your pocketbook. It's the person who says, oh, you know, if we're talking about how we have trouble to pay for it, for me especially, this sort of endless war thing needs to end. It's the person who says, when your kid is coming out of grade school or high school, that he doesn't have to look just simply at the military to get his way out of it. He can go and get a job in the trades because we're going to have a Green New Deal that is centered around labor and working class folks who look like myself, right? It is about that vision and clearly communicating that vision. And he's someone who's just been sticking by it. I mean, to the point where a lot of people, I think, sort of criticize him because he's so stuck by it.
Yeah.
He doesn't do the thing that I do pretty well, which is tell this sort of story like that. And you can look at that as a downside, or you can look at it like that guy's going to go in there. And when Mitch McConnell is playing all types of games, who's going to be the attorney general for the president? Which of all the candidates is going to pick an attorney general that says we're going to look at our justice system very differently, right? We're going to think about who's going to pick this cabinet that looks at the world in a way that's different and that works for each and every one of us. And my belief and my bet is that Senator Bernie Sanders is one who's going to do that. And when he can't necessarily get through Mitch McConnell, and he's spending a week trailblazing through Kentucky, and he's saying, I'm not blaming the coal miner worker.
Yeah.
I'm blaming your boss.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the person I want.
Was that kind of a Bernie imitation that was just kind of emerging?
You don't see my, you don't see, millionaires and the billionaires. I mean, and I think that's, to me, the thing that's appealing.
Yeah.
Organizer in chief line that he does. I mean, it's on point. This campaign is about developing talent, and I think the other thing that's very clear is it's not just about electing Bernie, but sort of a long-term bench. There's so many people who came from that, who've ran for office or moved into office, and so many of us who have done that, and many people have many feelings about us doing it. And here we are, often younger, taking whatever beating we can take, but we're doing it because we believe in that justice and that justice for all.
Yeah, and Bernie, I mean, I have to give him this above all else. He is so consistent. That message that he delivers is just the same wherever he goes. I've been talking a lot on my show about Bernie's interview with Joe Rogan. And I urge everybody, not that Joe Rogan needs any more listeners, huh, D? He only has 20 million of them, but it's a really great interview. I don't know if you've seen it, but Joe Rogan is a podcaster.
Yeah.
And, one of my lefty friends never heard of Joe Rogan. So anyway, but Bernie was Bernie. It was just, we got to go to Kentucky and
Yeah.
And it was Bernie. And then I read he was an interview in The Nation just the other day, which is the leftiest of all lefty. All my lefty listeners know what The Nation is. Bernie was the same Bernie with The Nation that he was with Joe Rogan. It was not like he tried to tailor one to the other. So you know what you're getting when you get Bernie Sanders.
And he does a interview with Addie Barkan. I think I'm saying that right.
Yeah.
Where he gets asked some personal questions, especially about his legacy, and you can see him open up a bit. There are times where he hesitates. He lost his mom when he was 18. He doesn't necessarily share that story. I will be very honest with you. I understand that. It took me a long time to open up and talk about my parents' death. And I think the fact of the matter is that clearly plays some sort of role with them. It's amazing how sometimes it's the thing unsaid that you can see is deep and vulnerable for people. The reason why you might avoid a thing is because it has such an effect on you, and you can see that in the video if you're able to watch it. So he's not only consistent, but you kind of get an idea of where this comes from. And he's opened up. There's a famous clip that I always think of when he's walking around in Brooklyn talking about throwing the ball off the house.
Yeah, I've seen that clip. Yeah.
And he's just explaining the story, and you're just like, you can see that's like, there's an anger there. And there's this whole belief in politics that you can't be angry. To talk about myself as I am as a politician, but I had a homeless mom, a survivor of domestic violence. She left Florida, came to Chicago. She told me to my face that the best place to sleep in Chicago when you're homeless was Maggie Daley Park, because if you're a woman, you didn't want to go to Lower Wacker because you could experience a great deal of abuse. And she got a stipend to be able to get rent and live in South Shore, and she was so thankful for it. And I'm sitting there, and I'm just filled with anger, because what kind of world are we doing where you have to be lucky to get that stipend, so you don't sleep in Maggie Daley Park, and so your kids have a roof over your head? And I think, again, who running for president would hear that story and be outraged? And that person is Senator Bernie Sanders. And yes, he's from Vermont. When I can eat ice cream and afford it, Ben & Jerry's is amazing. But he's still, he may be from Vermont, but you can hear in his voice is that kid from Brooklyn.
Yeah. He's Vermont by way of Brooklyn. All right, now I got to ask you the Terry Cosgrove question. And this question is named for Mr. Terry Cosgrove.
Love Terry Cosgrove.
A frequent visitor on my show, good friend of this show. And he, of course, is the head of Personal PAC, which is the largest reproductive rights PAC in the state of Illinois, and has been fighting that good fight for many, many years. And he is also well, he would probably disagree with me on what I'm about to say, but he basically is on the Democratic side of things, because the Republicans have completely and utterly abandoned the issue that's so important to him. As such, he was disappointed, to put it mildly, with what Bernie voters did in 2016. And I know you don't want to relitigate the 2016 election, but I have to ask you this. Speaking on your behalf, are you committed? Let's say your guy does not win the nomination. Let's say it's Elizabeth Warren. Let's say it's Grandpa Joe, okay, who wins the nomination. Dennis's favorite, Joe Biden. I just love doing it. I did it before he said it to me, so trust me when I say that. I beat him to that. Oh, your favorite, Ben, huh? Joe Biden. I've been drinking a lot of that Kamala Kool-Aid lately again, or it could be Kamala Harris, whatever, etc. Are you committed personally to supporting wholeheartedly that Democratic candidate? I got Terry on the show to say he would support Bernie Sanders if Bernie Sanders was the nominee. So what's your stand on that?
Hell yeah. I mean, I supported Hillary Clinton, and I my favorite thing about this talking point is if you go to these swing states, it's amazing how Gary Johnson just keeps appearing at third place in many of these states. So I always find it interesting, this sort of we have to take responsibility for losing to Donald Trump, each and every one of us. Yeah. Every one of us. Donald Trump is a monster. I know this as a fucking black man. I know this as people, literally folks who work in the immigrant rights community. I know this for folks who are impacted, who are transgender, those who are seeking to get an abortion and reproductive health acts. We all failed. This is a reality, and it is painful, and it is horrible. So yeah, in 2020, I want that guy out of there. Shit, if it's Mickey Mouse and he's got a D next to his name, he will do a better job than Donald Trump. And so, yes, that's a hell yeah. I mean, this is
Terry,
no
you hear that?
But.
Yeah, Terry Cosgrove. Did you hear that? That was the Terry Cosgrove question. He didn't tell me to ask the question. I just made it up and called it.
It's fair. I mean, I just think that it does, to me, I think everything I do with a sense of responsibility for myself. There are some things where I wish I could do more, and I'm like, what did I do enough of, or what did I not do? What did we not do collectively? If we have a meeting, I have to, manage people. I'm like, the first thing we need to think about is what could we have done? Mm-hmm. I'm not here to slap you on the wrist. I'm not here to berate you. What do we? You know what? I'll do this. Because I've been doing it to my personal story. I'm going to go back to my dad, because I was a girl. I used to throw eggs at kids all the time, at students all the time, smoke pot in the park, drink. Run away from home because I couldn't be home, because when you have an alcoholic mom, you're like, I'm not going back there. When my dad would see me after I'd done something wrong, the first thing he would ask me is, you know what you did? That's all. He'd say, you know what you did? I'm like, yeah, I know what I did. He's like, so explain to me what you did. I'll be like, I threw eggs and I smoked pot. And he was like, you know why that's wrong? And I'll be like, I know why that's wrong, Dad. And he would say, so what are you gonna do next time? I'm gonna try not to do it. He was like, that's okay, but can you make a bigger commitment? And I'd be like, I'm not gonna do it. I would do it again. My dad would be like, you know what you did? And I would break it down, and I would repeat the same thing until I started doing it less and less because he wasn't.
All right, everybody, I think we're ready. Ben Joravsky is here. Say hey to the people, Ben. Hey to the people, Ben. Oh, wait, let me turn that up there. Say hey to the people, Ben.
Hey to the people, Ben.
Hey, say wave hi to the camera there. Looking good.
For the camera.
Woo! He is looking good, people.
Went to the doc. We'll tell you all about it in a little bit.
All right, your Ben Joravsky show, your delayed Ben Joravsky show, but
sir.
still a fantastic Ben Joravsky show for Tuesday, September 11th is just moments away. But before we get into that, we need to thank the following unions for jumping on board and bringing back our program. First up, the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, Local 126 and District 8, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9, the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150, and, of course, today's Ben Joravsky show for Tuesday, September 11th is brought to you by our good friends at the Chicago Federation of Labor. Ben, you're looking good, buddy.
Oh, thanks, sir.
The Ben Joravsky show starts now. Maybe. There we go.
There we go.
It is Wednesday, September 11th, and live from the Chicago Reader Studio on Racine Avenue, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. Today on the program, legendary Chicago journalist Monroe Anderson returns to talk all things Trump. And it's the return of actor / political know-it-all, the one, the only, Pat Whalen. And now your host, almost legendary Chicago journalist. You're getting there. And political know-it-all, Chicago Reader columnist Ben Joravsky.
Hello, everybody. Ben Joravsky here. We're calling this Was I Dreaming Wednesday, and here's why. So, folks, we got off to a little late start today because I went to the doctor, and the doctor took the stitches out. Remember last week, I had to go to the doctor to get a growth removed from my nose. They took out an axe and chopped it off, not my nose, but the growth, and then they put a whole bunch of Band-Aids on. But first they stitched it up, put Band-Aids on, and I looked like, go ahead, take your pick. Jack Nicholson in Chinatown, The Invisible Man, The Mummy.
Well, we were having some good Invisible Man jokes during the when we were playing that interview, because I was doing the video and I would show pictures of you not there, and they go, "Oh my God, he really is the Invisible Man."
Yeah, I know the Invisible Man. A lot of people. It was a generational thing. Like, what did it trigger? And it varied generation to generation, and everybody above the age of 50, or not everybody, but a lot of people above the age of 50 said, "Oh my God, he's Jack Nicholson in Chinatown." Because if you recall, everybody, there's a great scene in Chinatown where Jack Nicholson runs up against a thug, backed by Roman Polanski, the director, who plays the mini thug, and Roman Polanski takes out a knife and says, "You know what happens to nosy kitty cats, huh? Kitty cat, and then he just takes the knife and slits Jack Nicholson's nose, and then the next scene, he's got this big bitch. Anyway, people say, "Oh man, you look like Jack Nicholson." Yeah, anyway, I did kind of look like Jack Nicholson. But I went to the doctor today, and the doctor took this little laser thing and took out the stitches and then zapped me. And while the doctor was zapping me, I had this flashback. I was like, did I see something somewhere that said Mayor Rahm was going to run for president? Was that just a dream? And then it hit me. No, I saw it in the Tribune. Johnny Cass, the columnist from the Tribune. A word about Johnny Cass. Like, as millennials go, "Oh, is that the singer who wears black?" No, that's Johnny Cash. Johnny Cass, K-A-S-S, is the far right of center, a little to the left of Mussolini, columnist for the Chicago Tribune, who loves Trump, but he's a typical Tribune right-winger. He loves Trump, but he's embarrassed to say he would vote for Trump, so he kind of hides it around. He's ashamed that I'm not going to admit that I voted for Trump, that I like him. So he does things like look for the Democratic candidate least likely to defeat Trump, and then promotes that person. And so today, he promoted Rahm Emanuel. How about that, D, huh? Johnny Cass jumping on the Rahm for president bandwagon. That caught me off guard. I know I read it this morning early, but it was only when the doctor zapped me, okay? With that little laser thing that I remember. Oh, yeah, Cass. By the way, Monroe Anderson in the studio, I'll have to ask him. was it he who got John Cass the job at the Tribune, or did he get David Axelrod the job? I always get him mixed up, but Monroe will enlighten me. He's always helping some young man out at the Tribune back in the day. Anyway, Cass, he's looking for some candidate, any candidate that Donald Trump could beat. He goes, I know, I'll endorse Rahm Emanuel. It's one of the funniest columns I ever read. But here's the thing, D. I know we'll probably take a little deep dive in this when we get to the news, but here's the thing. Left me with an existential dilemma. If it did come down to one Donald John Trump versus one Rahm Emanuel, who would I vote for? On the one hand, Pat Whalen is in the studio, is like, oh my God, what a choice. I mean, that's a really tough choice because on the one hand, you know, Donald Trump is, you know who Donald Trump is. He's insane, all right? And he's probably heading down the dementia highway because there's nothing rational about what he does. And so, you know, even with that, and that's with his right-wing tendencies. Now, Mayor Rahm, on the other hand, is, I would not say he's insane. I would not say he's anywhere near the dementia highway. On the other hand, Mayor Rahm hates the left part of the Democratic Party even more than Donald Trump does. So my feeling is if Rahm Emanuel became president of the United States, he would just continually move the party to the right. Because just to spite the left, to say, vote for me anyway. You got to vote for me anyway. So I don't know who I would vote for. If it came down to Donald John Trump versus Rahm Emanuel for president of the United States, I might have to write in Monroe Anderson. I think that's what I would do. I would write in Monroe Anderson on a Monroe Anderson Pat Whalen ticket.
So can we get off this and talk about what if we were invaded by Martians tomorrow?
That's Monroe Anderson. We got a great show. Monroe Anderson's here. Pat Whalen's here. We're going to take the deep dive on all things Trump and Mayor Rahm's fledgling presidential campaign, at least in the imagination of one Johnny Cass from the Chicago Tribune. But before we do that, we turn to the doctor with the news.
How's it going? Not a doctor. We begin with, I'm Dennis. We begin with what's happening in Chicago and or Illinois this afternoon. Still no public events scheduled for Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker. So let's just get right to the mayor of Chicago. Today, Lori Lightfoot is at the Chicago Fire Department's Engine 42 on Illinois Street to commemorate 9/11. And Lightfoot was handling business with the police department on Tuesday. Remember, the mayor is currently finding ways to get our city out of a damn near $1 billion budget deficit, people.
Yes, that's billion with a B.
$838 million, according to Lightfoot.
Billion with a B and a rhymes with P, and that stands for pool right here in River City. Sorry.
Mayor Lightfoot said the city of Chicago, quote, can't afford police overtime expenses at the current level and called on Superintendent Eddie Johnson to develop a cost-cutting plan. According to the Sun-Times, the police department's overtime expenses have totaled up to $67.6 million in the first 6 months of the year. Now, Ben, we didn't cover this on Tuesday's show. Police overtime is a topic that comes up every few years here in the city. Lightfoot said she's, quote, angry and frustrated. Is Lightfoot in the right to be upset here?
Well, you know, this is a complicated one. All right, Dee, I think I was talking to you about this yesterday. Maybe I was talking to Monroe about it. I can't remember. I've had so many conversations about this. On the one hand, the city of Chicago has pursued a policing strategy where they refrain from hiring more police because they don't want to pay the money and the salaries and make the commitment and obligation to the pensions. And on the other hand, in order to meet our policing needs, they encourage cops to work more overtime. And so I watched this emerge under Mayor Daley. I've watched this emerge under Mayor Rahm. And Joe Ferguson, who is the Inspector General, says a lot of it is waste and that there's a game being played and it's insiders taking advantage of the system. But I'm not so certain that covers all the overtime. And I think the reality is this. Whenever we have a big holiday weekend coming up in the city of Chicago, Monroe knows this, whenever we have like 4th of July or Memorial Day or Labor Day, the mayor and the police chief always said, we're going to flood the streets with police. Time off. There's no more. You can't take a day off. Everybody is on board. You know this, Monroe, because you were there for Eugene Sawyer probably did the same thing back in 1989. Mayors are constantly trying to reassure the public.
Not only that, but I was beaten by the Chicago police in 1968.
Well, we'll get to that part too. They didn't get overtime for that. So
yeah, they did.
Okay, that's right. They were beating you at the middle of the night. So, D, you can't have it two ways. You can't say, you know what, I'm flooding the street with every available police officer all timeout is eliminated because we are dedicated to public safety, and then complain about overtime. So listen, I never said it was easy being mayor of the city of Chicago, but that one, there's some tough choices the mayor has to make in terms of how many jobs she's going to, how many police officers she's going to hire. But I do think it's a little unfair to say you're going to flood the street with cops and then complain about overtime.
When asked who's to blame for the overspending, Lightfoot said, quote, "Every department head has to take responsibility for what goes on. The police department is staffed with about 13,400 officers of all ranks, the largest roster of cops since the 2000s. Moving on to the teachers, Mayor Lightfoot met with the Chicago Teachers Union president, one Jesse Sharkey, on Tuesday. Sharkey noted that this was, in fact, their first face-to-face meeting. Doesn't sound like it went over too well. In a letter to supporters, Sharkey wrote, quote, "We were disappointed by what we heard." Sharkey told supporters their proposals roll back rights we already have and increase principal power. Sharkey's letter hints that teachers could strike over issues such as teacher prep time, student assessments, or teacher evaluation. Teachers have been offered a 16% pay increase over the next 5 years. CTU rejected Lightfoot's offer and instead started a 30-day countdown to a potential strike that could start as soon as September 26. Benny J., what say you?
Well, I'll tell you this. I predicted there would be no strike in 2012. I was wrong there. And I'm predicting there will not be a strike in 2019. And I think it's mainly wishful thinking. So I hope I'm right this time. You know how it goes, Dee, in negotiations. You're a very experienced, wise negotiator. I've seen you go toe-to-toe.
Thanks.
Yeah, with people many times. Monroe Anderson wrote the book, how to negotiate what you want out of any...
it's called The Art of the Deal.
The Art of the Deal. His favorite president actually wrote the book. So,
Actually, Schwartz wrote the book.
Schwartz wrote the book,
right.
yeah, Tony. And he's pretty much
Right.
denounced Donald Trump ever since.
Right.
Meanwhile, the royalties roll in. So it's kind of a bizarre situation. But anyway, so I think there's a lot of posturing going on here, and on both sides. As far as I could tell, the big pressing issues have to do with job guarantees that the teachers want written into the contract for nurses and librarians and clinicians, et cetera, what they call the wraparound services at every school. And the city, the mayor, the Board of Education does not want to make those commitments. Again, it gets like what I was just talking about with the police department. Are you going to commit to jobs, or you're not going to commit to jobs? Every mayor I've seen since Eugene Sawyer did not want to commit to jobs, because if you commit to jobs, well, actually, Daley in the early years was still putting people on the payroll. But if you commit to jobs, then you're committing to pension payments, et cetera. So I think ultimately that will be the tough issue for them to settle on. And if there is a strike, it'll be because of that, not because of these issues that Jesse Sharkey said.
We'll have to wait and see. Hopefully, no strike. Hopefully, everybody can work it out.
The next time Mayor Lightfoot is on your show,
Which
the first
way
thing,
I'm going.
right. The first thing I want you to say to her is, "You are a very intelligent woman. So tell me, just why did you want this job?"
Yeah, right. Yeah, it is a tough job. It's no doubt about it. It is a very tough job. Yes, indeed.
Right.
And by the way, let me just remind everybody that the teachers union supported Tony Preckwinkle in the last election, and I think Mayor Lightfoot has not quite forgiven and forgotten that little thing. Don't you agree, Monroe?
Oh yeah, I think she has a long memory.
She has a long memory. Yeah.
I don't know much about the history, but I just love fall in Chicago. The leaves change, it's cool around the lake, bobbing for apples, teachers strike, 80 degrees. Rahm says something divisive, it's like clockwork every year.
Yeah, well, every 4 years for teachers. Remember, they haven't had a teacher strike. Well, they had a one-day strike in 2015. One day, it was a one-day strike. But 2012 was the last strike, yeah. There's certain rituals involved. Good point, Pat.
Mm-hmm. All right, and finally, we really have been trying our best here on the Ben Joravsky Show to look forward and not talk about the past. But damn it, former Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel's name just keeps showing up in the news.
Oh, yeah.
And we just can't help ourselves. So Tuesday, we covered Rahm's Sunday appearance on ABC's This Week.
Wow.
And along with learning about this humble brag, wait, Rahm, what was it you just did?
I just biked around Lake Michigan.
Oh, okay, yeah, right. Now, how far did you ride again?
Nearly 1,000 miles.
Nearly 1,000 miles.
How much?
Nearly 1,000 miles.
Nearly 1,000 miles. Whoa.
Nearly or merely?
Yeah, and he talked to all the Americans, so he knows everything.
Yeah.
He's a man of the people.
Yeah. So I think it was nearly. Hold on.
Nearly 1,000 miles.
Okay, nearly. Not merely. Nearly.
Just had to throw that in there in this big interview on ABC.
Yeah.
Hey, I wrote 1,000 miles, by the way.
Yeah.
But during that appearance, we also learned about Rahm. Thank God I'm no longer Mayor Emanuel. That's surprise. He's a huge corporate Democrat, basically saying that anyone who is running for president and promising Medicare for all has to just jump off a bridge. Remember that, Ben?
Yes.
Medicare for all, which is we're going to eliminate 150 million people's health care, and we're going to provide health care for people that just come over the border. That is an untenable position for the general election. As you know, George, I just biked around Lake Michigan.
Oh, enough about your bike.
Wow, I didn't know that.
What a bragger.
Very cool.
George, as you know, of course, everybody knows.
Because he's FaceTiming George Stephanopoulos every 20 miles. Hey, George, can I come on? Can I come on the show and talk about my bike ride?
I want to agree with Chris Christie every chance I get.
Yeah, that was the other partner in crime on that show. Can you imagine Chris Christie joining Rahm on one of those bike rides around the lake?
No.
Okay. Just throw it out
Maybe
there.
in a sidecar. I don't know.
But here we are once again with another Rahm story. Ben, you talked about it earlier. Weigh in here again because today's update involving our mayor is so rich. The following comes from the Chicago Tribune and one John Cass. Hey, we never talk about this guy, do we?
No, Johnny Cass. We're big promoters of John Cass's career, and I hope he thanks us. We talk about his stuff all the time, and it's interesting. I'm just going to say this. Somebody of my lefty friends said, "Did you read Cass today?" I go, "I never read Cass. I can't stand Cass." And I'm like, I have more of the Monroe Anderson attitude about this. I want to know what people of the right have to say. I want to know what they wake up in the morning and they think. And clearly, young John Cass woke up yesterday morning and goes, I know what I can do. I can undercut the Democrats and help re-elect Donald Trump by promoting the presidential campaign of one of the most disliked politicians who has ever had a D next to his name.
That's not how it worked.
Oh, tell me how it works.
But how it worked was, well, what can I write about Trump today? Nope, not that.
Yeah.
Nope, not that.
Nope.
Nope. Oh my God, not that.
Absolutely
okay,
not.
right. Oh, I'll write about Rahm running against him. That will be a great deflection.
All right, now just one more time, and I get them mixed up. I get Cass mixed up with Axelrod, and I humbly apologize. But back in the day, when you were at the Tribune, you helped one of them get a job. Which one was it? I can't remember.
Rub it in.
Yeah. Which one do we owe you for? I just cannot remember.
It was a great columnist.
Cass?
Yes.
Oh, you helped Cass get a job. Has Cass thanked you for that any time recently?
No. But he did me a favor one time.
What's that?
When I was press secretary
To Eugene Sawyer.
And the black alderman stormed the School of the Art Institute and very upset about this painting that had Mayor Washington in underwear.
Yeah, this is ancient history.
Yeah.
All millennials everywhere going,
Exactly,
what?
right.
But
Well,
whatever, I remember it clearly.
This is good history, kids.
Okay.
You might get this on a test.
Yeah.
And anyway, he called me and told me that it was happening.
Oh.
So I was prepared for it when the media stormed afterwards.
Okay. Well, that was nice of him.
Yeah.
All right.
Quite a
That was his way of thanking you for getting him the job. By the way, so here's my favorite part of the story. He's talking.
Chicago Tribune columnist John Cass said that Mayor Rahm should run for president to save everybody from Joe Biden. For those who just tuned in.
Yes. That's we've been talking about that a lot. John Cass, urge everyone to read his column. How about that, John? I'm promoting your column. Even if you're of the leftist persuasion, you get to see how people of the right think. In this particular case, people on the right are looking for the easiest to defeat candidate that would guarantee Donald John Trump's reelection.
Or to take the attention off all of the many screw-ups Trump is doing right now.
What? Like what? What do you?
Yeah, what screw ups? We'll get to all the Weathergate. I can't wait to talk to you two guys about
no collusion.
Yeah, no collusion.
Let's not forget the Taliban at Camp David.
Yes, let's not forget that. I wrote that down. By the way, Dee, could you just play it one more time? I forgot what did Rahm do with the bike again? Just one more time.
Oh, he.
I just biked around Lake Michigan. Nearly 1,000 miles.
Oh, okay. As George knows. Okay. So anyway, Cass had this line. he's talking about Rahm, an avid bike rider who cuts a striking, lithe figure in bike shorts.
Wow.
Yeah, man, he really likes Rahm.
That's very visual.
Yeah.
Quite descriptive.
Okay.
But
So
can I
anyway.
just ask, like, it seems like a 180. Like, when he was mayor, he's probably more on the Ben Joravsky type, right? Not a big Rahm fan. But now that he's gone...
Well, okay, yes, that's a good. Well, John Cass is to the right, and so he was. I can't remember. Was he a big Rahm? I mean, he was not easy.
So
on
when
Rahm,
did you start reading Cass's column?
I just can't remember. They all fade. I can't remember. I don't recall Cass being on the front lines of any big time issues against Rahm, but I'm sure he was critical of Rahm from time to time. But anyway, so now he likes Rahm and thinks he would be a great candidate for president. And so, I don't know. I can't think of many Democrats who would welcome Rahm Emanuel's entry in the race. Do you guys know anyone who would welcome any Democrats?
Maybe someone who just moved here, never heard of him before.
Yeah.
That kind of a thing.
That kind of thing.
Maybe bike riders. I don't know. Do you think he's a Schwinn guy? He's a man of the people. He rode around Lake Michigan on a $9,000 bike.
Yeah.
So he can really stop in the diner and identify with people.
Yeah,
I know that much.
That was a funny thing. The other thing he said, do you still have that bit about him stopping in diners, D, or do you still have that bit from the show yesterday?
I have to pull
it doesn't matter. But he said he was stopping in diners along, and nobody came up to him.
Here we go.
We've taken a position so far, and the candidates have, through the process, a few have not, on basically Medicare for all, which is we're going to eliminate 150 million people's health care, and we're going to provide health care for people that just come over the border. That is an untenable position for the general election. As you know, George, I just biked around Lake Michigan.
Oh.
Nearly 1,000 miles through Michigan and Wisconsin, two really important states. Yeah. Nobody at a diner ran at me and said, take my health care away. Nobody. This is reckless as it relates to, and you don't have to take the position to win the primary, and you're basically literally hindering yourself for the general election.
Yeah.
And nobody ran at him and said, who are you?
Yeah. and definitely.
Sir, you need to put some pants on. Put some real clothes on.
And definitely nobody ran up to you and said, please join Donald Trump's crusade in keeping me from having health care. Because I like to remind everybody, every chance I get, that Donald Trump and the Republican Party are in court right now trying to destroy Obamacare. So the crisis of healthcare in this country will get worse if they prevail, if the judges rule in their favor. And so I do not know why Rahm Emanuel, if he really wants the Democrats to win, or if he really has democratic values and cares about people who are in trouble, would advocate anything other than expanding Obamacare. And if you start talking about expanding Obamacare, it's just a short while before you're talking about some kind of Medicare for all plan. And it's just it's an evolutionary time. We have to just head in that direction, folks. And people like Democrats like Rahm, who resist it, are hurting the very people they supposedly represent. And that may have something to do with why Hillary Clinton lost in 2016, young Pat Whalen.
I just wanted to say you had a great point yesterday that you wondered if anyone came up to him in these diners and said, will you please give me health care? Yes. Because as you always say, the Republicans have no plan to give health care. But to answer your previous question about who would support Rahm running against Donald Trump, I'd say Donald Trump and his team would probably really love that idea.
Yes, which is...
And Putin.
And Putin, yes. Yeah, and let's not forget Putin. Can't forget Putin. So anyway.
So there you are. That's what's going on locally there. And Monroe's awesome. And Putin. I think he says that every week it comes on. There's always something. And Putin.
Don't you like the sound, Putin?
I know. I'll tell you who likes that sound. Trump. Trump loves that sound. Got him elected.
All right, everybody. More with Monroe Anderson and Pat Whalen coming up. But hey, did you know you can get the inside scoop on all things Chicago Bears this football season? Yeah, it's true. You can with the annual Sun-Times Bears magazine. Dive into features of the players, coaches, games, and plays, and get excited for the 100th season of football. This collectible magazine is just what you need to get ready for this fall. You can order your copy of the Sun-Times Bears magazine at suntimes.com/CT, T as in Tom, shop. Ben, what's that noise you always make about
Ready,
football?
set, 2020.
Yeah, ready, set, 2020.
And don't forget Blue Dog, Blue Dog.
How can we forget Blue Dog, Blue Dog?
That's the audible.
That's the audible, all of our non-sports fans. Please don't tune out. Suntimes.com/CT shop. Grab your copy today. Do not go anywhere, because coming up after this short little break, more of the Ben Joravsky Show live from the Chicago Sun-Times. Read the Chicago Reader to get up to speed on what's what in Chicago. Culture, food, arts and entertainment, weekly concert listings, weekly event listings, the environment, travel. I can continue, but you get the point. And for all of you Chicago political junkies, raw weekly columns on real city politics from Maya Dukmasova and our very own Ben Joravsky. The Chicago Reader, free to the public in newsstands throughout the city and online at chicagoreader.com. Read it now and be a more informed Chicagoan. Attention Chicago innovators and creators, 2019 Chicago Ideas Week is coming soon. October 12th through the 17th, this annual Ideas Festival is back, and it's the largest, most affordable Ideas Festival of its kind. They bring in hundreds of thought leaders from around the globe and some local to share ideas and spark action all across Chicago. To get a better idea of what to expect, here's a bit of audio from last year's Chicago Ideas Week with special guest and Chicago comedian Cameron Esposito.
Everything that I have ever tried to do has had two motivations. One is I really do believe in trying to create social change, and then the other one is I'm scared and alone too, so I would like for you to join me. You know, every job that I have, I try to make sure to hold the door open. That's like my motto for like if I get through, you're coming with me, and I believe in that wholeheartedly, and especially if I have more privilege than you, like I'm holding the door open for you even wider.
October 12th through the 17th, it's 2019 Chicago Ideas Week. Tickets go on sale to members on August 22nd and to general public September 10th. Once again, if you're an innovator or creator in the city of Chicago or even outside the city, you must join us for Chicago Ideas Week, October 12th through the 17th. For tickets and event information, head to chicagoideas.com. That's chicagoideas.com, and we hope to see you October 12th through the 17th for 2019 Chicago Ideas Week. Today's Ben Joravsky Show was brought to you in part by Chicago Architecture Center. Get to know your city on one of Chicago Architecture Center's 65 walking tours. Hear the unforgettable secrets and stories behind Chicago architecture from our expert docents. Book your tour at architecture.org/tours. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm actually on a tour right now. Oh, wow, look at that building. Get a special discount for Illinois residents from July 15th to August 15th. All Illinois residents get 50% off select walking tours. Visit architecture.org/IL-resident. Commercial break over. Welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show, live from the Chicago Sun-Times.
Monroe Anderson is in the studio, as he is every Wednesday, our Trump expert, former columnist for the Tribune, former columnist for the Chicago Sun-Times, former press secretary to Eugene Sawyer, mayor of the city of Chicago. And Pat Whalen's in the studio as well. He's our overall social media guru, an actor, improver, and all-around wise guy, political know-it-all. And we're talking all things Trump at the moment. Let's take a brief moment, Monroe, to recognize the fact that it's 9/11.
Yes.
And I know everybody in this room was old enough to remember 9/11.
Yes.
Increasingly, that's not the case as time marches on. And
well, Trump remembers it better and better.
Yes, Trump has a very curious memory of 9/11. It's a memory of something that did not take place. Is that correct?
Yes. He remembers thousands of Muslims cheering in New Jersey as the building came down.
Now is he repeating that? I remember
he has repeated it. Today he's not repeating it. His lie today was that he went to ground zero right after it was hit, and he was out there helping the rescue people.
And that is absolutely not true.
I can't imagine that being
true.
I mean, but and one of his old 9/11 lies was that he lost a lot of friends and he went to a lot of funerals, which was a lie.
Yeah.
But I cannot imagine Trump going down there in that smoky, dirty, dangerous thing to help anybody.
I don't recall it at all.
No, I bet $10,000 he didn't do that.
And, yeah, that's all.
Me and Mitt Romney.
I
bet Mitt Romney $10,000.
And Pat Whalen, we were going to take a look at a deeper dive in some of Donald Trump's recent tweets, but let's just talk about his 9/11 tweet.
Yeah, sure. Well, it's really hard to just pick one because there's a lot of gems out there. God knows there was the one from, 2013, where he said, wished everyone a happy 9/11, including all the haters and losers.
Yeah.
Class act. Yeah. Really good stuff.
Right.
But the one he posted today was, a picture of himself and Melania, and I believe in Pennsylvania at a memorial service. So, nothing says, solemn national tragedy like a picture of yourself.
Yeah.
But I got to, what I remember more than anything talking about when Monroe's talking about is that he did a phone interview on 9/11, I think shortly after the second plane hit, where he, instead of saying, this is terrible, we need to figure out what happened here, he said, well, I have the tallest building in Manhattan now, technically.
Yeah.
That's where his mind was.
That's
exactly.
that happened. That's on film.
Yeah,
I remember
exactly.
that.
Yeah.
He was on Howard's show.
Yeah.
Oh, that was on the Howard Stern show. He said that.
Yes.
On the day of 9/11. Are you sure about that?
Yeah, I read that yesterday.
Wow.
Class act.
No, it's it's a class act, a classless act, and it continues, and it definitely trivializes the office of the presidency. I always like to say this, that I've disagreed with most of our presidents on most issues because I'm generally to the left of any president, but I do expect a certain amount of dignity out of the office to act with a certain decorum. And I can't think, obviously, of anyone who's had less dignity as the President of the United States than Donald Trump. And that continues.
Remember when it was a disgrace that Obama showed up in a tan suit?
Oh, my goodness, yeah.
Though, those are the level of, terrible missteps that I miss so much. Those were the days.
Yeah.
Right.
No, that was, you talk about it. It's funny. We'll get to my list of Trump news for the week. And I'm going to start with Weathergate. This is a fascinating little story. But there was a letter to the editor of the New York Times to the point.
Where's your Sharpie?
I don't have my Sharpie. I have a black pen, but not a Sharpie.
Not good enough.
And we've talked about Weathergate a little bit on this show. But in the New York Times today, a Trump supporter wrote the following thing, Monroe. I'm going to read you this letter. And this is apropos, I suppose, to the outrage that Republicans or right-wingers had over Obama wearing the brown suit. Was it a brown suit?
Tan.
Mm-hmm.
Tan,
yeah.
So this is from a writer in Birmingham, Alabama, and he's talking about Weathergate. And we'll get into the specifics of Weathergate, but here's what this writer says, a Trump supporter. Talk about a tempest in a teapot. Never has so much ink been wasted for so long over such an absolutely inconsequential matter as whether a hurricane, which is now gone, might come to Alabama. I guess if it could be used to heckle the president, the press won't let it go. This is from a gentleman in Birmingham, Alabama, who's a Trump supporter, which I find really interesting. He's outraged that so much is being made by so little, and yet I recall during the Obama years, on a routine basis, so much was belittled. The president of the United States.
Yeah, because they didn't have any real scandals, so they kept manufacturing them. And that was one of them. They also used to talk about Obama in mommy jeans. Remember that?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
No. I mean,
scandalous.
Yeah, right, exactly, because they didn't have any, whereas we have a scandal an hour.
Yeah. And by the way, let's not forget the ultimate making a mountain out of a molehill that Donald Trump was very involved with, and that's just the birther controversy, where for how many years did they push the notion that Barack Obama should not be allowed to continue as president of the United States because he was not in fact born in the United States. He was born in Kenya.
Yeah.
And even after Obama produced his birth certificate, Donald Trump still kept hammering away at that.
He sent some men to Hawaii to investigate.
Yeah, he sent some men.
And you'd be surprised at what they were coming up with.
Nothing.
So no surprise there.
All right, Weathergate. So should we make more of this, Monroe? Okay, one more time. This was when Hurricane Dorian was coming in, about to hit the United States, the continental United States. And at one point, Donald Trump, I think he tweeted out or said, I can't remember which one it was, that it was going to hit Alabama. Yeah. At which point, meteorologists who work for the federal government felt compelled to assure the people of Alabama that this hurricane was not, in fact, going to hit them, because people take seriously warnings that their governmental leaders
It could be a hurricane could be a life or death matter.
Could be a life or death matter. So people have to think about things like, do they leave town? Do they board up their building, et cetera, and so forth. So if I would say it could have ended there, where a president misspoke. Lord knows they're human beings. Right. They misspeak all the time. Right. So let's just give them.
Especially if you're Donald Trump.
It's like if you're Donald Trump and you don't even think before you speak. But no, Donald J. Trump could not let it go there, and he just had to go say that he was right, everybody was wrong, and he produced a map in which he had it was like a chart of where the hurricane would the path of the hurricane.
An actual chart from the weather
service,
cone of uncertainty,
and then he took a Sharpie and circled Alabama. Like, there you go.
Right.
Oh my God!
It's on an official map.
Yeah,
right. It must be true.
Yeah.
Boy, it's kind of weird that it's a different kind of ink. Never mind.
Well, except a Sharpie, that's his favorite pen. He loves Sharpie.
I think we all know. I think even John Cass would acknowledge that Donald Trump probably doctored that weather, make it look as though the hurricane was going to hit Alabama.
Yeah. Ben, come on. Someone asked him pretty directly. They said, "Mr. President, it looks like someone doctored this map, with a Sharpie. Do you know who did that?" And he went, "I don't know. I don't know." And he kind of trailed off. I don't know, like a kid who's like, "Hey, 9-year-old Pat, where'd the last cookie go?" "I don't know, Mom. I don't know."
Yeah, what are those crumbs around your mouth?
Yeah, we're gonna find out who did this.
So anyway, it just keeps getting. Again, okay, at some point you just say, all right, he's just saving face. Let's let it go.
At some point, a regular president, one that's not nuts, would have said, okay, well, I made a mistake, no big deal. I'm going to go out there and save some Americans who have suffered from this.
Yeah. But no, he's doubled down, and now apparently the story's breaking that Wilbur Cohen, who is the head of the Commerce, he's the Secretary of Commerce, was threatening meteorologists who work for the government that if they...
he told them they'd be fired.
They could be fired if they don't support Donald Trump, and the poor guy who runs the service doesn't know what to say, so he comes up with this statement that says, the president really cares about the weather, and all our staffers are great people. Like, can you please leave me alone?
Right.
Which is essentially...
yeah.
So how far should we take, bro? You know what I mean?
Well, the thing is, we have to take it as far as Trump wants us to take it, because he keeps bringing it back up. I mean, it's not like the press kept needling him, saying, "Oh, what about that Sharpie pen? And what about the cartoonish weather forecast you did?" He kept bringing it. He managed to keep the story alive for 6 days. Something that with any other president would have been a 6-hour crisis.
Well, you know what, the lack of... Here's what's so difficult about arguing with right-wingers, and something you know a lot about, Monroe, because you do it all the time. So Donald Trump has kept this thing going. Donald Trump started this thing. Right. Donald Trump kept it going when it could have died.
Right.
Donald Trump produced that cockamamie map with the Sharpie, which is so clearly drawn in. And yet you have this fellow from Alabama blaming the press and Trump haters for keeping alive something that Donald Trump is... So you can't really have anything resembling a meaningful conversation or debate with Republicans or right-wingers these days.
Well, because he's afraid, for example, we lost the porn stash guy.
Bolton.
Oh, Bolton. Yeah.
Right.
Uncle Eldon?
No.
Uncle John.
One of the reasons Trump was reluctant to hire Bolton, not because he's a war hawk or anything like that, but because he wears a porn stash.
I missed that one. Trump said that?
He said he had a porn stash.
I thought he hired him because he liked the stuff that Bolton was saying on Fox TV.
Oh, he did.
So that's how he got the job.
But he was
in the first
reluctant.
place.
He was reluctant to hire him initially because he didn't like the porn stash.
Okay.
Now, in the porn stash, of course, Trump being the man of the world he is, probably comes from Harry Reams, because he had a mustache like that.
You know, I did not know that. When I think of Harry Reeves, I'm not looking at the mustache.
Right. See, I did.
Okay. But anyway, so all right. So before we get to John Bolton, all right. So Weathergate. I think I read today paper. Everything is kind of muddled because they blasted me with that laser when I was at the doctor's. But I do believe I read this in the newspaper that the Democrats, congressional Democrats, are entertaining the notion of having a formal investigation into Weathergate. Monroe Anderson, do you believe the Democrats in Congress should have an investigation into Weathergate?
They have an embarrassment of riches. I think right now they're considering 85 investigations. 85. Mm-hmm. That's how many scandals and corrupt things Trump and his people have committed.
Yeah.
This one is important theoretically because he's now compromised NOAA, the weather service.
Yes.
And so now the next time, if they tell us a tornado is coming to Chicago, there'll be some of us who go, those guys are probably lying, or we'll wait till the president tells us the truth, or something like that. Whereas you need to be able to believe. They have a difficult job as it is of getting this stuff right. Mm-hmm. And it literally can be a matter of life and death.
I agree. I think they should investigate it. And I say this as an old, long-standing Chicago journalist. Think about this, Monroe and Pat. If we had something comparable in the city of Chicago, where the mayor of the city of Chicago had threatened to fire some bureaucrat in the city, in City Hall, who had dared to come out with a report that embarrassed the mayor or embarrassed some of her officials, or pointed out that, in this case, she was wrong, we would be all over it. Reporters would be FOIAing for the information. It would be like, what did she say? When did she change her opinion? I know how politics works in the city of Chicago. To a certain degree, I've seen this with Rahm, with Daley, and Laquan McDonald's a classic case.
There you go.
Where Laquan McDonald, people were saying, how has Rahm's position evolved or changed? And they started FOIAing for his private emails and his private texts to see, whether there was a difference.
And that was a life and death matter.
That was a life and death. So I'm saying the same standards should apply if we're going to apply as a Chicago journalist.
Yeah, but see, this is the problem with Trump. Seriously, he commits so many. He commits something every day.
Right.
So we have the Emoluments Act being violated, coming and going.
We didn't even talk about
Pence,
that. Yes,
he makes Pence. He doesn't make, but somehow Pence ended up staying.
Maybe.
Staying at one of his golf clubs
in Scotland.
Scotland.
It was only a couple hours away from the end up.
By jet.
By helicopter. As the crow flies. It was 2 hours.
Right, exactly. And then he's using another golf course. The Air Force has started buying jet fuel from there, buying jet fuel from there because they were about to close the airport because it wasn't making any money, and it's close to his golf course. And so if they closed the airport, then people couldn't get to his golf course easily. So suddenly the Air Force is stopping at this particular airport to get his jet fuel at $11 million more than it would cost someplace else.
So in other words, what you're saying is that there's so many scandals to cover and to investigate that it's hard to determine which one is, how do you rank them in a hierarchy?
Exactly. Because if the Democrats investigate all 85, then it's going to be noise, basically.
Well, it is noise anyway.
Yeah, no, but if they focus, what they need to do is focus on the top 3 or 4.
If you could list, here we go. Oh my God.
Yeah, we're going to prioritize.
Yeah, let's get
interesting.
The top 3 scandals of Donald Trump's presidency that most warrant attention from Congress. Top 3 Monroe Anderson, go.
Emoluments Act, Russian conspiracy, and his business practices, corrupt business, the Trump organization.
Okay. Pat, Whalen, what would you put in?
This just feels like, okay, your hair's on fire, your shirt's on fire, and your shoe's on fire.
Yeah.
Which is more important?
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, I think emoluments. I want to know what these 85 investigations are, frankly, because I feel like a lot of them can be kind of grouped into column A, column B, column C, and let's just put them all together and what do you got, Congress? Because I feel like the more we talk about, those investigations, it's been a long time, and the more you talk about, the less juice they get. Well, and if you come up with half of an argument,
we need the fact witnesses on TV talking.
By the way,
Jimmy Carter had to put his peanut farm in a blind trust, for God's sake.
I know, what a difference that day was. But
that was back in the day because he said he lusted in his heart.
Now
oh my goodness,
it was
better than lusting somewhere else.
Remember that?
And let's not forget that Donald Trump is resisting having his tax returns made public, which probably would have bearing on all three of these categories. One's emoluments, and emoluments again is profiting while you're president, using your office of president to profit personally, which is supposed to be outlawed.
Domestically or international.
Yes.
Clearly happening every time he uses a Trump resort for an official business.
That is correct. And by the way, my Republican friends in the city of Chicago who are outraged when Democrats do this in City Hall, I'm waiting for them to join the chorus of outrage with Donald Trump. Hold on.
Oh. Don't hold your breath, Ben.
Hiding under the come on out, guys.
Where are they?
Under the table. Come on out.
I thought there were people under there.
All my Republican friends are hiding. Ben, come on, don't talk about it. And of course, Russian conspiracy. Absolutely. I mean, the gift that keeps giving for Donald Trump. And then just his general corrupt businesses. We talk a lot about this, like his Deutsche Bank, controversies.
And he is, number one. What was the term in New York with the
public enemy number one?
No, not public enemy.
Sounds good.
It's the thing that Cohen's in jail for with the campaign fraud.
Person number one. Unnamed person.
Yeah, right. Person number one.
Very good.
Right,
exactly.
Whalen. Exactly.
Going back to Michael Cohen. Let's not forget that just for a moment, folks.
Oh, my God.
Michael Cohen is in prison.
For doing what Trump told him to do.
Donald Trump is wandering around the world threatening weathermen.
Right. And canceling meetings at Camp David with the Taliban.
All right, let's get to that now. So anyway, I do believe the Democrats should investigate Weathergate. If we would investigate, I would put it this way. I hold the President of the United States to the same standards that we, the reporters of Chicago, hold the mayor. And there would be nothing but headlines. But just think about all the headlines over Kim Foxx.
Right.
What did she know? When did she know it? What did she say? Right. You know what I mean?
Right.
The outrage over Kim Foxx and how she used her power to intervene with lower level lawyers to get a case potentially dropped, allegedly, against Justice Smollett, or as Dave Chappelle calls him. What does he call him, D?
UC? You say Smollett.
UC Smollett.
Juicy
Smollett. And so anyway, so if it's good enough for City Hall in the city of Chicago, it's good enough for Donald John Trump.
Well, there you go. Ben, I don't want to hold us up, but I got to say, I don't think Donald Trump would ever be mayor of Chicago because City Hall is only 6 floors, and I don't think he'd be, it's too small. It's too short. Too many other buildings are taller than me.
When he first moved to the White House, he said it was too tacky. He wanted to stay there.
It's old. It's an old place.
He's going to build an extension. All right.
No gold.
So what else is there? There's Taliban Gate. Talk about that. And John Bolton. Monroe, update us on those two things that have happened since the last time you were. Yeah, it's been 2 weeks since you were in the studio.
Yeah, it's been 2 weeks. No, what happened with John Bolton is John is a serious war hawk. He wants to bomb Iran.
Yeah.
He wants to bomb Nicaragua. But he's a serious war hawk.
Yeah.
Trump likes to talk about, because he treats this whole presidency like it's a reality TV show.
Yes, he does. We'll talk about that book that's coming out.
Yeah, and so he wants to talk about it and present it, but he didn't want to do anything about it.
Well,
Bolton wanted to do something about it. So they were at odds all along.
Well, I'm going to say something here, Monroe, that you may not like, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Yes.
When I view John Bolton and Donald Trump and their attitude toward the rest of the world and the cavalier attitude that John Bolton has about sending soldiers off to die for reasons nobody can quite understand,
right,
I'll take Donald Trump over John Bolton. When it comes to foreign policy, I'm putting it out there. I realize it's not a heck of a lot of choice. So this is what I'm saying.
I'm not weeping about Bolton.
I mean, I'm saying I am not weeping about John Bolton.
No, that's not it. No, that's at all. What I'm talking about is why it came to be. Trump wants to get out of Afghanistan. That was one of his campaign promises. Bolton does not want to get out. But Trump, being the dummy that he is,
sir,
that's our president.
My goodness,
came up with.
Have you no shame?
Came up with this brilliant idea of inviting the Taliban to Camp David.
Yes.
The week of 9/11.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hadn't thought about this.
Right, exactly.
That, yeah.
Right. And there were some who figured out that was a very stupid idea. Bolton leaked it, or there's speculation that Bolton leaked it. If he didn't leak it, for sure he did not defend Trump as you're expected to do, as Noah did with the weather situation, where they came forward and said, well, we could understand where the president might think that Alabama was going to get hit, but maybe it wasn't. It's a matter of opinion and perspective on this. Bolton didn't come to church. He didn't play that game with him. And
gotta be a company man in this White House if you want to survive.
And so he got fired. He was supposed to have a meeting the day he got fired.
Yeah.
And he got fired, or he saw the writing on the wall and he quit. There's some controversy on that because he went on Fox and Friends and said,
he being Bolton.
Yeah.
No. He tweeted or he texted the hosts.
Yeah.
He was texting everyone on television. Anyone who had a TV show got a text from John Bolton that day.
Exactly. He was playing Trump's game.
He was texting them saying what?
They were having that he quit.
Okay.
He wasn't fired.
He wasn't fired. He quit. Yeah.
And Trump said, I fired him.
Yeah. Well, okay, if it comes to people, who do I believe in that instance? I believe Bolton quit.
Yeah.
If it's between, do I think we are better off without John Bolton in the White House? Yes.
Right, of course.
Now, it's marginally because we still have Donald Trump in the White House.
Right.
True.
I got to think of that. But I do love reading the New York Times on this, Monroe and Pat, as they struggle to try to explain to their readers why this is a serious moment that John Bolton has been forced out, and the notion being that we need some kind of coherency in our foreign policy. And I'm thinking, the coherency is to start invading countries and bombing countries.
Right, exactly.
That's the coherency. I'm not seeing this as a big problem.
It's worked out so well in the past,
Exactly. Exactly.
So this is one instance where whoever was responsible for John Bolton leaving the White House, good enough.
Except we don't know what else we're going to get.
Well, there's always that, Monroe. There's always that.
Because Trump may outdo himself and find somebody worse than Bolton.
That is correct. All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back with Monroe and Pat. We're going to run through the greatest Donald Trump tweets. Pat, our social media expert, has been gathering them, and we'll be right back after this.
Read the Chicago Reader to get up to speed on what's what in Chicago. Culture, food, arts and entertainment, weekly concert listings, weekly event listings, the environment, travel. I can continue, but you get the point. And for all of you Chicago political junkies, raw weekly columns on real city politics from Maya Dukmasova and our very own Ben Joravsky. The Chicago Reader, free to the public in newsstands throughout the city and online at chicagoreader.com. Read it now and be a more informed Chicagoan.
Hey, everybody. What you're about to hear are the piano stylings of Jeff man, listen to Jeff go. Jeff Emanuel has been playing piano around Chicago for years. He's played for conventions, for celebrities, played in basement bars with blues bands. He's played at prestigious social clubs, fine restaurants, and in the intimacy of private homes. Emanuel at jeffemanuelpianist.com. Don't worry, I'll spell his name at the end of this commercial. You know what Chicago Magazine said? They said that Jeff Emanuel is, quote, as comfortable with Chopin as he is with Cole Porter. He's excellent and his performance is joyous. He offers an elegant stream of compositions and interpretations that entertains the mind but won't hurt the ears. To hear more of Jeff Emanuel's work and to book Jeff for your next event, go to jeffemanuelpianist.com. I'm going to spell it out for you, people. J-E-F-F. M as in Mary, A, N as in Nancy, UELPIANIST.com. Take it away, Jeff Emanuel.
I just biked around Lake Michigan, nearly 1,000 miles. Medicare for All, which is we're going to eliminate 150 million people's health care, and we're going to provide health care for people that just come over the border. That is an untenable position for the general election. As you know, George, I just biked around Lake Michigan.
Did you know that 40% of the people in Illinois opt to be cremated? Well, it's true. And Chicagoland Cremation Options honors their wishes by providing cremation services directly to the general public. Chicagoland Cremation Options provides an affordable, ethical, and easy cremation arrangement, whether in person or online. Save thousands and streamline the process by going directly to Chicagoland Cremation Options. It's a family-owned business operated by my good friend, Douglas Klein. Here's how you reach them. ChicagolandCremationOptions.com. One more time, ChicagolandCremationOptions.com.
All right, everybody. Hour number 2 of your Ben Joravsky Show for Wednesday, September 11th is moments away. But first off, I got to tell you about 2 things. The first thing I'm going to tell you about is that the Ben Joravsky Show is brought to you in part by this place called Green Element Resale. Ben, have you heard of this place?
I've heard of it many times.
I hope so. You sit right next to me every day. All right, good. Green Element Resale. It's at 6241 North Broadway in Chicago. And people, it's amazing. Not only do they have a cool Green Element Resale truck, they have a really cool place to put these things that the truck goes and gets, all right? Books, lamps, furniture, appliances, Ben's favorite, candles. Not sure if they have those cannabis-scented candles that Ben loves so much. Don't think anybody in America has those, but they got candles, all right? Tons of items here at Green Element Resale. I'm looking at a box fan right now. Guys, don't go to Green Element Resale to get a box fan. That's mine. Dibs on the box fan. I'm looking at board games here. They got the Game of Life. They got Clue. Upwards. Okay, nobody go get Upwards at Green Element Resale. I got dibs on that as well. I need a box fan. I'm getting Upwards. I'm looking at couches. People, it's a fantastic thrift shop, and it's the only one that brings you the Ben Joravsky shows. So if you're ever on Broadway between Devon and Granville, stop into Green Element Resale and tell them thank you. You can learn more about them at greenelementresale.com, Mondays through Saturdays, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m., and Sundays, 12 until 7 p.m. And hey, the Ben Joravsky Show is also brought to you in part by unions, quite a few of them, like the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, Local 126 and District 8, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9, and the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150. A giant thank you to those unions for jumping on board and bringing back our program. And, of course, today's show is brought to you by our good friends at the Chicago Federation of Labor. Hour number 2, let's go. It is Wednesday, September 11th, and live from the Chicago Sun-Times Chicago Reader Studio, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. In this shortened hour of content on today's program, Well, we're still riffing with Pat Whalen and legendary Chicago journalist Monroe Anderson. And now your host, Chicago Reader columnist, Benny J. Joravsky.
Pat Whalen, Monroe Anderson still in the studio. Pat Whalen is our social media expert, our guru. He is going to unveil. We've had our thousands and thousands of experts have weighed in through a computer program that Pat designed. He built himself to determine which of the 5 most outrageous Donald Trump tweets of the last week or so. And
you people on the live stream can't see this, but my goodness, this machine he brought in, Lordy Lou, look at that thing.
Yeah.
Hear it? Yeah, that's the machine he brought, guys. You should have seen him lugging this thing up to the studio. 3 floors.
All the way from Buffalo.
Oh,
yeah,
my.
He brought it all the way from Buffalo.
Michigan, I assume.
No, he's not. That was Rahm went to Buffalo. that was Rahm.
New Buffalo, sorry.
Yeah, Rahm. John Cass's favorite presidential candidate, Rahm Emanuel. By the way, I just want to let it die here. This is in the New York Times today. Headline: Fewer insured after attacks on Health Act. Fewer Americans are living in poverty, but for the first time in years, most of them lack health insurance. All right? So most of them lack health insurance. About 27.5 million people, or 8.5% of the population, lacked health insurance for all of 2018, up from 7.9% this year. But yet, on the Rahm Emanuel seems to think that expanding health care is the greatest problem this country faces and the greatest detriment to Democrats winning back the White House. No wonder Republicans like John Cass are embracing Rahm's presidential campaign. What you got for me, D?
All right, before we jump back into all things Donald Trump.
No collusion.
Okay.
No, thanks, Donnie.
We'll get to you soon enough, pal. Before we get to that, we have a health update on our Illinois governor, J.B. Pritzker.
I'm J.B. Pritzker, and I'm not a perfect person.
That's right, everybody.
Okay.
Remember, Governor J.B. Pritzker's on crutches these days. The big feller's femur's fractured. Bummer.
That's no joke.
Not good. But during an interview with WJBC AM 1230 in Bloomington Normal, Ben, you rave about that station all the time.
I do, and I have been to Bloomington Normal.
Oh,
I want to tell you that. Remember I told you that once before?
Oh, yeah. You got like really high there, right?
I've not gotten high since 1981, or was it 80? I can't remember. Anyway, Bloomington Normal is where the Illinois Basketball Coaches Hall of Fame is.
Oh, yeah.
So I've been there a couple times for their banquet dinner.
But during an interview with WJBC AM 1230 in Bloomington Normal and the Scott Miller Show, J.B. Pritzker gave us an update on his health. Like we said, the big fella broke his femur. So let me pull it up real quick, and we'll hear J.B. Shout out to JBC AM 1230 in Bloomington Normal.
Talk to you about a whole bunch of things. First, though, I want to check in on you and your health. It was announced that you've got a broken leg. How's the leg, sir?
That's Scott Miller.
Well, thank you. I've got a hairline fracture in my femur and my left leg, and it's kept me a little less active than normal, but frankly, I've been probably doing more than the doctors have said I should. But I'm recovering, reasonably well. A lot less painful than it was before I knew that it was broken, because there were a couple of weeks there where I had injured it, but just thought, well, it'll get better on its own, and it just kept getting worse and worse. So I'm doing just fine, and I'll be back at 100% in probably another 4 weeks.
Well, can you paint a
Scott
picture
Miller,
for
enough.
WJ?
All right, but there you go.
That's enough.
Unreal.
I want to hear the rest of the interview.
Go to that station, WJBC AM 1230, Scott Miller Show. We got what we needed out of that program. He's doing better. He's doing fine.
Good to hear. He's done a good job, in my humble opinion, as governor of the state of Illinois. And I think all Democrats would try to emulate him, including Mayor Rahm, if he wants to run for president. Be more like J.B. Pritzker, okay? You want to be like J.B. in that J.B.'s wealthy, and you're trying to get wealthy. Why don't you be like J.B. in terms of caring about everyone else and not just yourself?
And you don't have to be perfect.
I'm J.B. Pritzker, and I'm not a perfect person.
It's all good.
Yeah, you don't even have to be perfect, okay? So that's your update, young man?
Oh, yeah. And wait, Rahm, what is it you did again?
I just biked around Lake Michigan.
Wait, and how far?
Nearly 1,000 miles.
Whoa. Big timer.
Did you talk to people in cafes? No, I guess not. You didn't talk to anybody in
He said,
cafe.
sir, please put on a shirt.
Yeah. Oh,
people
my
in
goodness.
cafes say.
Rahm riding around the lake, people running the other way.
He was riding to the tune of Tiny Dancer.
Oh, yeah, that's what he listens to. Elton John, Tiny Dancer.
Monroe Anderson, man.
I know it's the silent, quiet ones that always come up with the wisecracks.
Sniper.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Robert Miller agrees. All right, young man, I'm looking at you, Pat Whalen, and you are you technically the youngest person in this room? No, I think you're the second youngest.
I think I might be the second youngest. Well, I'm 29 again. I actually just celebrated my birthday last week. As you know, I am 29. That's like a thing I do. I turn 29 every year.
I'm around 30. I've been around 30 twice.
Whoa! Look,
yeah, baby.
Out.
The joke is because it's been 3 times. He's 90.
Man,
Guess I got to update that joke. Yeah.
I had no idea. So it was just my birthday, and so I could do whatever I want, and so I just sat around on Twitter all day, just keeping track of, the Republic and how it's where it needs more or less attention from the president, Donald Trump. He's the president.
Yes, he is.
Do you know that?
He
got elected.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he lives in the White House. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, thanks to the Electrical College, as Homer Simpson calls it. Yeah, remember?
I think the Electric College, we have to disband it. I never graduated.
Wait, is that Trump or Homer Simpson?
Yes.
Okay.
Dough, right? Is that what he says? Dough. I have lots of dough.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what he would say.
So, let's get the top 5, young man.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many hits, Ben. When it comes to Twitter, obviously, Donald Trump, there's no shortage of activity. I actually, if you look up, first of all, there's a Wikipedia page for Trump on Twitter. So that should tell you something right off the bat. Like, there's an entire Wikipedia page that has many, Kofifis in there, all the hits, right? All the classics, all the side A's. And they have like an average number of daily tweets. So like in 2009, from May to December in 2009, it was 0.2 tweets a day.
Okay, wow.
Not that much, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think presidency year 3, first half? How many tweets a day?
Okay, so presidency, so he's 0.2 tweets a day, is that right?
From May to December in 2009.
How did you have 0.2 tweets? I'm not that good at math.
Because he only tweeted 56 times that year.
I see. So
less than once a day.
I get you. All right. So I would say that Donald Trump, by his presidency, was up to 2 tweets a day.
Well, Ben, presidency year 3, first half, from January 20th to July 19th, 2019, he has an average daily tweet of 15.6 a day.
Wow.
So far in 2019, he's tweeted 2,800 times, just about 2,814 times. And, it's been quite a week. We talked a lot, about this, Make Alabama Great Again, or whatever, this weather map thing that
Weathergate.
he had. Yeah, Weathergate, love that. He had a great tweet on Saturday night. I don't know if you saw, but he tweeted a GIF, right? A graphic image. I actually don't remember what it stands for, but it's a moving picture, right? And it's him in front of that weather map, and he's pointing a laser pointer at the map, and there is a cat that is that is going at the. I have a lot of problems with this tweet.
Right.
Wait,
first of all,
there's a cat
chasing the laser.
So he's running a laser pointer over the map, and the
so
cat.
he did this on Saturday night.
Saturday night.
What time does it say?
I think it was around 7 o'clock. I would have to look
Eastern
to be
Standard
specific,
Time?
but yeah.
This is just proving that he has a sense of humor.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, it's not all hard work in the White House.
Yeah,
in fact, it's almost none.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but I have a lot of problems with that tweet.
Okay.
I think the biggest problem is that he's the president. He should probably be doing something else. And my other problem is that there's a cat in the GIF, but it's not facing the map. So it's like the whole thing doesn't make sense. You'll have to look it up and post it. I'm sure it'll be on social media channels for the Ben Joravsky Show.
Trump doesn't make sense.
No,
I'm shocked.
I have a greater theory that because the media wouldn't let go of Alabama, that gave way to this elaborate lie about inviting the Taliban to Camp David, and then that blew up in his face, right? And someone's got to take the heat for this mistake. Who was it? His national security advisor?
Wait,
John Bolton.
Monroe, is that out there in the universe? That the Pat Whalen theory that Taliban Gate was an attempt to divert attention from Weathergate? Is that correct?
It probably is out there. That's,
okay.
that's as good a theory as
I've not heard that, but that's, I know what I'll do. I'll invite a Taliban person to the White House. People will talk about that to Camp David.
I mean, a few hours later, someone will point out to me that it's 9/11 this week, and that's a terrible idea in terms of optics.
Right.
Boy, who's going to take the heat for this mistake?
Some weatherman. I'll blame the cat. But that's funny because he's making light of it, all right, which is an appropriate thing to do. But at the same time, he is outraged that people don't believe him.
Yeah.
They're threatening to fire the weather people, right?
Over
so
Ross.
It's one or the other. You know what I mean? Either it's just a joke and you're making fun of it, or it's something really serious. I got to fire the weatherman because he made me look bad. So
it is serious, right? I mean, I'm going to get into these tweets for sure because there is a gold mine here. But I think it is important to remember that this man is technically the leader of the free world.
That is
what
correct.
he tweets has an effect on people, and I think we should keep that in mind as we explore
15.6 per day.
a day. Yes,
Yeah.
his daily average of
Right.
tweets right now.
And speaking of effect on people, the refugees from the Bahamas
Oh my God.
weren't allowed to get on a boat.
because
They
of
were
all
trying
the
to-
because of all the gang problems down there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
Right. And
That's
then
it.
the drugs smuggling.
They're not sending their best.
Yeah, exactly. No, their houses are completely ripped off. They're with the clothes on their back.
There's nothing left.
But they're bringing drugs in and things like that.
Well, that's
Wait a
what's-
minute.
yeah.
Forget the clothes and the food and the medication. Let me bring some drugs in. Yeah.
It's utterly absurd. But go ahead. So
Well, yeah, that's a great example, Monroe, is that he's tweeting about, the Bahamian folks who are trying to come to the United States. But, there's just a wide variety of things to tweet about when you're president of the United States, which he is.
And you're not doing your job.
Yeah, well, I don't know. He's tweeter in chief, Monroe,
Yeah.
so agree to disagree, all right? I don't want to get on. Someone's got to regulate the Twitter account. What's he going to outsource that? What's he going to hire someone from China to do it, Monroe? Is that what you want?
You're right. I should be more respectable.
That's right. That's right.
Yes, sir, Commander Bone Spurs.
Well, speaking of Bones, here's a good one. I have a little tweet here. I have a voice clip, actually, of him reading the tweet. Should I just play that?
Yes, play
I'm just
that.
kidding. It's my impression of
no,
him.
you shouldn't have said that.
Now-
You should have said it was.
Now, are we doing like a top 5 thing here?
Yes, he is.
Okay, so this is number 5.
I think this will be top 5 for the week.
Okay.
Let's see what we
cool,
can
cool.
find.
Hey, hang tight.
Number 5.
Okay.
Oh, and then I got the music too. So as we do here on the Ben Joravsky Show.
Well, as Dennis finds it, like I said, there are many different things to tweet about. There's the hurricane of the Bahamas. Of course, I can't read a GIF out of a cat with a laser pointer, but there are a few readable instincts.
So and as you read these, we got 2 options here. Are you going to go for the mellow Donald Trump voice, or are you going to go for the yelling Donald Trump like Air Force One?
Well, I think that typically he tweets on the can, if you will. I think that's the official language.
Okay.
So he's a little more muted,
A little more chill.
has a little privacy. Maybe my voice is bouncing off some marble in the bathroom that he is in.
Perfect.
But he's on the throne, if you will. So it's a little more muted. And I quote. The Federal Reserve should get our interest rates down to 0 or less, and we should then start to refinance our debt. Interest costs could be brought way down, while at the same time substantially lengthening the term. We have the great currency, power, and balance sheet. The USA should always be paying the lowest rate. No inflation. It is only the naivete. Whoa.
Yeah.
Naivete. Look at this
Spelled
guy.
right?
Yeah, and no, it has an umlaut over the I, which I'm pretty sure isn't a thing.
That's one of his ex-girlfriends, naivete.
It is only the naivete of Jay Powell and the Federal Reserve that doesn't allow us to do what other countries are already doing. A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that we are missing because of boneheads. That, again, is the president tweeting at the Federal Reserve and calling the entire institution boneheads.
Yeah, and so this is, I think, Monroe, you agree, this is part of his overall strategy to deflect any potential recession, any potential downturn in the economy, which many people fear is going to happen, onto somebody else. And in this case, the head of the Federal Reserve. I think that's pretty obvious. That's what he's up to here.
Either that or he's cray-cray.
Okay, well, there's always that, too. I'm always looking for the method, and you're always coming in on the madness.
Monroe Anderson, fake news. He just tweeted that just now. That's crazy. No, he didn't do that. But I do have one that speaks to the Air Force base close to Mar-a-Lago that Monroe was talking about earlier. So an Air Force plane, yes, indeed, an Air Force plane landed near Turnberry Resort and an airport out there, and he tweets, and I quote, "I know nothing about an Air Force plane landing in an airport, parentheses, which I do not own and have nothing to do with, end parentheses."
Wait, time out. Did he put that in parentheses?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm reading verbatim.
He's just
I wouldn't discredit the president by misreading his tweets.
Okay, just wanted to know that. Okay.
Oh, my God. I'm a patriot.
So Trumpian.
Yeah, you know, he's just assuring us a little parenthetical in the middle of a tweet.
I'm a stickler for grammar.
Yeah.
I know nothing about an Air Force plane landing in an airport, parentheses, which I do not own and have nothing to do with, end parentheses, near Turnberry Resort, parentheses, which I do own, end parentheses, in Scotland, and filling up with fuel with the crew staying overnight at Turnberry, parentheses, they have good taste, exclamation point, end parentheses, period. Nothing to do with me!
Wait, did he say nothing to do with me?
All caps.
Okay, that's one of those two things where he's promoting his businesses while pretending he's addressing an issue. I think you agree, Monroe.
The Emoluments Act.
Yeah, there we go. Start investigating Democrats. All right, let's go on to number 3.
You got it. Boy, this is getting tougher and tougher.
Number 3.
It's so hard to prioritize these because there are so many that are so bad. I'm sure.
Do the old dartboard toss. Not worry about it.
Well, I'm sure you guys heard about how he got into it with Chrissy Teigen, John Legend's wife, on Twitter. First of all, a long and storied history of Chrissy Teigen tweeting at the president. She has a lot of interesting things to say about him. And she had a very interesting thing to say. This is a podcast, so I can swear when I read this tweet.
Yes.
I don't have a Chrissy Teigen impression, but I'll just read her tweet. She said, "LOL, what a pussy-ass bitch. Tagged everyone but me. An honor, Mr. President." And she tweeted that in response to his tweet, which I'll read in a second, but I think she wasn't tagged because he had blocked her. In 2017.
He blocked her because he's very sensitive to criticism.
Very sensitive.
Yeah, and as these poor weathermen who work for the
and Bill Maher referred to him as a whiny little bitch.
Oh, okay, all right. I'm sure he's blocked Bill Maher. All right, so here we go. This is tweet number.
This is 4 or 3. This is 3. This is 3.
Wait.
We played it already.
Oh, yeah, we did. Okay.
Number 3.
I love the thing so much, though.
Musician John Legend and his filthy-mouthed wife are talking now about how great it is, but I didn't see them around when we needed help getting it passed. Anchor Lester Holt doesn't even bring up the subject of President Trump or the Republicans when talking about this is the thing. It's a thread, so I'm reading in the middle of a thread. This is so long. All right, so I'm going to speed it up a little bit, but I'll keep the impression going. Here's the first tweet. When all the people pushing so hard for criminal justice reform were unable to come even close to getting it done, they came to me as a group and asked for my help. I got it done with a group of senators and others who would never have gone for it. Obama couldn't come close, ... A man named Van Jones and many others were profusely grateful at that time, exclamation point, in parentheses, period. All caps, I signed it into law, comma, no one else did, comma, and symbol. Republicans deserve much credit, period. But now that it is passed, comma, people that had virtually nothing to do with it are taking praise. Guys like boring musician John Legend, and he goes on to just insult her.
Musician John.
Boring musician John Legend, just one of the most talented and successful performers on the planet Earth currently.
Yeah.
No big
All right,
deal.
Monroe, your thoughts on this? This, of course, gets in the heart of perhaps Donald Trump's greatest accomplishment. And I personally don't think it goes nearly far enough. And it's interesting, as we speak, Donald Trump is taking credit for justice reform, while here in the city of Chicago, Kim Foxx is under siege for many Donald Trump supporters for trying to do a little criminal justice reform in the city of Chicago. It's just an interesting contrast. Donald Trump's supporters are able to do two things at once: take credit for whatever he did, and then use whatever he did as a tool against the Democrat. But your thoughts on Donald Trump's tweet here?
He was talking to the cult.
Yeah, he's talking to the cult.
I mean, no, seriously, these guys are cultists. They when the polls, which they do all the time, talk about how poorly he's doing. It's fake news, and the polls are wrong. those are the same polls that in 2016 said he wasn't going to win. On the rare occasion, the polls have him in the high 40s instead of the high 30s.
It's usually mid-40s,
Yeah,
but
right.
go ahead, yeah.
No, occasion, rare occasion, it's in the high 40s. He's actually got up into the high 40s.
Okay.
Then it's na boo boo. He's doing real good right now.
Yeah. No, he's picking on Lester Holt. Lester Holt used to be in Chicago. Lester Holt is I just like, why are you picking on Lester Holt?
It's just a nice newsman who just wants to do a good job.
Former Republican. He just quit the party several months ago.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Well, then that's why he's taking a shot.
Are you friends with Lester Holt?
No, Lester and I are friends.
Yeah, go back in the day.
right.
And because Lester was probably in Chicago when you were working for Mayor Sawyer.
Yeah, well, he was in Chicago when I worked at Channel 2.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah, your colleagues.
Yes.
I did not know he was a Republican. Donald
Not
Trump
anymore.
has driven Lester
Not
Holt
anymore.
from the party.
Yeah, he's driven Lester Holt. He's driven Will.
Heard.
George Will.
Oh, George Will. I thought you were
Will.
about the congressman.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about from the party.
Yeah.
Republicans who are no longer.
Yeah. Anyway, that's a classic Trump tweet, and he's just picking on black people basically in that tweet because just Van Jones, Lester Holt,
right.
John Legend,
right.
And his foul-mouthed wife.
And his foul-mouthed wife.
Right.
Yes.
His foul-mouthed wife.
Yeah, right.
His foul.
What a 1950s.
Did Donald Trump write that tweet, or did someone compose it for him? There's Monroe Anderson has a theory that there's people who write Donald Trump's tweets.
No, they write the ones that make sense.
Okay.
I'm with Monroe on this
now,
one.
you can tell the difference because
Big time.
When his people write it it sounds like somebody wrote something.
Yeah.
Right. It's not exclamation point and parentheses
Exactly.
period dot dash.
Right. Exactly.
All right. So next one.
Yeah, this is a good one.
Number 2.
There you go.
Of course, now we're talking about recent tweets. Ben asked me to look at like the past week or so.
Yeah.
We've touched on John Bolton. The stash himself is no longer around. He tweeted on September 10th, yesterday at 11:10 a.m. It was yesterday that this happened. It feels like a week ago.
Who's the he in the sentence?
This is John Bolton.
tweeted.
He tweeted, and I don't really have an impression, but I'll just do what I think he sounds like.
Yeah.
I offered to resign last night, and President Trump said, quote, let's talk about it tomorrow.
Nailed it.
Yeah, that's
Thank
a
you.
good poll.
Thank you, sir.
Where's your Rahm imitation?
Take a chill pill, man.
You got to work in that one a little bit.
I'm a Democrat, I swear.
Yeah,
it's just me. It's just me.
Okay.
But anyway, Donald Trump tweeted about John Bolton leaving, and he said on September 10th, and I quote, I informed John Bolton last night that his services are no longer needed at the White House. I disagreed strongly with many of his suggestions, comma, as did others in the administration, comma, and therefore, ... new tweet. I asked John for his resignation, another comma, which was given to me this morning, period. I thank John very much for his service, period. I will be naming a new national security advisor next week because we don't really need one right now. I tagged that last part on. That last part was me. But he did say, I'll be naming a new national security advisor last week. So, a classic, he said.
Yeah.
Right, and this is a question for you. This is a quiz question.
Yeah.
Who was between General Flynn and his advisor? Between
the
Flynn,
general. It was another general. God, who is the national security advisor you're asking
exactly.
me? It was a general, and his name began with an M.
Mattis.
Mattis.
Jim
Jim
Mattis.
Come on.
Right. And
barely knew it.
Right.
Come on.
Right.
General? Name began with an M?
No, because you will be pleased to know that for the past 6 or 7 months, Trump has been calling him up for advice. I want you back.
Jim Mattis, are you for real?
I'm for real. Oh, yes.
Wow.
Yes.
And meanwhile, Mattis is hawking a book, isn't he? He's like doing a book deal.
Donnie, I'm writing a book. I can't.
No, he's like, what else are you dealing with? I'll throw that in the book too. It'll be a nice prologue.
Yeah. Well, no. He brings people back. Oh boy, is still hanging around.
You can
Bannon. That's what I'm trying to.
Everything every time I think I'm out, they drag me back.
And so finally,
Number one.
Yeah, there's so much to choose from, Ben. There is just so much good tweetage out there of Donald Trump. I have a few, like I said, it was really hard to prioritize these and like, label them. And really, I think my true number one I will do after, which is something that I can read in the accent. But my sub number one is something he tweeted on September 10th at 10:46 p.m. It's a Trump Keep America Great 2024 sign. It's a 2024 campaign sign.
2024?
2024. That would be 3 terms of Donald Trump.
He wants to be like Xi and be president for life.
Oh, my
That's his plan, yeah.
He wants to be...
He tweeted out a sign that said, "Oh my God,
Trump 2024, 2024."
My God, help me all.
He wanted to be like Roosevelt, but without the chair. That's not my style.
Yeah,
I don't like that. But I think in honor of today,
all right.
It's a solemn day of remembrance, no matter who is running the country. But my all-time number one Donald Trump tweet, I think, is from September 11, 2013. I would like to extend my best wishes to all, even the haters and losers, on this special date, September 11th. Presidential material.
Yeah. Wow.
Always, ladies and gentlemen.
That's unbelievable. 2013. And I think he took that off his tweet.
Yeah, it's magically disappeared.
Yeah, magically disappeared because I guess there's standards that even Donald Trump has of decency. But it's, I don't know, it exists nonetheless. And I forget who I saw it today, but you're absolutely right. One of the a real classy act by our president of the United States, Monroe, huh? All the losers out there, even you.
Right, exactly.
So not even a pretense of really caring about the sacred holiday or the sacred day, right, Monroe?
Well, when he went to Texas after the shooting, the mass shooting.
In El Paso, that Texas, that one?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
He was in the hospital.
Oh, yeah.
The people had been shot. And he was talking about himself. He wasn't even, no, I feel so sorry. It was the first responders, of course. They always get a plug because
photo op.
They're his photo, yeah.
He was at that hospital for, I think, all of 90 minutes.
Yeah, right, exactly. And he never bothered to express any real emotion or sentiment towards the people who had these AK-47 bullets ravaging their bodies, because it's not like a regular bullet hole that just goes straight through. These things explode in your body, destroy your organs and whatever.
I don't want to nitpick, and I don't want to call you unpatriotic, Monroe, but Donald Trump was asked specifically, I think when he got back to the White House, said, did the family members that you met with in the hospital give you any pressure? Were they upset that Congress isn't ready to put forth any gun legislation? And he said, no, they loved me. They loved me down there. They think I'm great. He just basically was like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
No one's upset. The president was there.
Yeah.
Right.
No, it's that was a low point. And again, that gets at that.
It wasn't a low point. He
keeps going lower and lower.
Exactly.
That gets in the aspect I talk about the presidency as sort of like a symbol of our leader who's above politics from time to time. And Donald Trump never does seem to emerge from the political mud. Anyway, Pat Whalen, excellent job with the accents,
Shucks.
with the list. And you had, what was your Rahm joke? You had a Rahm joke.
Oh, well, you were talking with Maya Dumasova yesterday.
Yeah.
And you were like, what is the reason for Rahm biking around Lake Michigan? He must be running for something in one of these important states he was talking about. Mm-hmm. And, I had just been talking to you about Chinatown because of your get up earlier this week, and you couldn't believe that I'd seen Chinatown, even though I've seen Citizen Kane and Gone with the Wind too, but we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about movies. We were talking about Marvel movies last time I was here. You don't like the Marvel movies.
Not a big fan, no.
So I got a DC movie pitch for you.
Okay.
It's Aquaram. He's running for the mayor of Lake Michigan. And you know what? I have a co-writer on this script. It's Dr. Dennis Banks.
Oh, yeah. Hey,
Dr. Dennis Banks. Do you want to say what the new working title of our film is?
Who's Dennis Banks?
Dude, you're not Dennis Banks. You're not Dr. D.
Oh, no, I'm Dennis. Aquamanuel.
Oh, okay.
Aquamanuel.
You guys can write this script
Let's see
together.
what Rahm thinks about it.
Take a chill pill, man. Oh, okay. He doesn't like it.
All right. One more time, Rahm. Where did you go bike riding?
Oh,
I just biked around Lake Michigan.
I see. Okay. How long did it take, or how long was it?
Get the bit right.
Nearly 1,000 miles.
Oh, okay. Hey, did you talk to anybody? Wait.
I drove around Lake Michigan one time. It was a long trip.
Did you
Stop
talk
at
to
any
people?
diners?
Yeah, stop at any diners, talk to people about their health insurance. Oh, Mayor Rahm, what a character. Anyway, Pat Whalen, great job. Thank you very much. Monroe Anderson every Wednesday here in the Ben Joravsky Show. And, of course, the man, the myth, the legend, the pride and joy of Alton, Illinois. And as Pat Whalen can tell you, back home in Alton, what do they call him?
White lightning.
Give yourself a raise, take it out of petty cash. See you tomorrow, everybody.
Hey, and remember, you can download previous Ben Joravsky shows and Benny J bonus interviews at both Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Reader websites, chicago.suntimes.com, chicagoreader.com, and wherever else you download your favorite podcasts. Hey, downloaders, we live stream this program. You know that, right? Yeah, it's true. We do. Tuesdays through Fridays, 1 until 3 p.m. Central Time. Once again, both Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Reader websites, the Chicago Sun-Times YouTube channel. We now Facebook live stream. Get a look at that mug on Joravsky Tuesday through Friday, huh? At Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show. Or his last name, J-O-R-A, V as in victory, S-K-Y. We're looking to get 2,000 likes on the Facebook page. As soon as we do, we'll have our next caption contest, a Lori Lightfoot caption contest. So head over there, give us a like, follow, share, review, whatever you want to do. We'll see you tomorrow.
That's correct.